Yes, Linda. Yes. Yay. At the Rugs, great to see you. Oh, I'll tell you what, the universe is not on my side when it comes to computer games. It's good. We are on. Happy Friday. Good to see you all. If you are wondering what I was doing with no sound, I was peeling scotch tape off of my container of wine. I was that desperate for it not to spill in the car. The weirdness is over. Happy Friday night. It is great to see you. I have such a nice episode for you tonight. This is, I think, our coziest ever episode. We are finally, as a group, getting into the swing of submitting stuff. I got stuff all through this past month for gallery night. Tonight is gallery night. Tonight we're here to celebrate each other, each other's wonderful current work, past work, upcoming work, ideas, projects, to celebrate each other. Full stop. And there are so many wonderful rugs we're going to look at tonight together, and they are your rugs. Tonight it is all about you. Let me come back to the beginning. Just say a few hellos. Robin, Linda B, Linda H, Karen, great to see you. Happy Friday night. Juliet, great to see you. Mom, great to see you. Oh, Donna and Linda, Karen, Ryan, great to see you. So many people that whose names I just said have beautiful work in the show tonight. Wait till you see. You be prepared to be stunned and blown away and inspired, mostly inspired. Linda H. Yep, we got that all sorted. I got nervous again. I saw no sound, but I thought, nope, that's old. Doreen, great to see you. Courtney, great to see you. Courtney, I have that very funny picture of you in the show. I hope that that's okay. Oh, good to see you all. At the Rugs, I am so happy to see you there. Feel free to write any news that you have going on. I do want to remind everybody that on, at least here in New England, in Sturbridge Village on Wednesday is the fairy tale, the Promogown Guild fairy tale show is open for that one day on Wednesday at the Public House in Sturbridge Village. So I will be back there on Wednesday, which is normally a coffee time day for us, but I'm certainly going to be there instead. I don't know that I can go live and be disruptive that way, but I will certainly be taking photos and stuff, and we'll figure out our coffee time schedule. I'll probably run coffee time Monday, Tuesday, Friday next week, knowing that I'm going to be at that Pearl McGowan fairy tale show on Wednesday. So if you're in the local area, that will be something wonderful to do. It was wonderful going to Cape Ann yesterday with a bunch of buddies in our group. I'm going to make a post about it, but I haven't had a chance to at all yet. We went to Cogswell Grant in Ipswich, and then we went to Beauport, the Sleeper McCann House in Gloucester, Mass, and they were both loaded with rugs, filthy with rugs, old ones. I took about 100, maybe 200 beautiful photographs, and I'm putting those all into a blog so that we can all look at them. It was a super fun time. So many fun times ahead. Teresa, great to see you. Great to see all my buddies here. We have such nice work to show tonight. Anne, great to see you. April, welcome. And Cheryl, great to see you. Chrissy, Lynn, Suze. Which one? Great to see you. Beverly, hello. Wendy, hello. I've got your work in here as well. Whitney, great to see you. Oh, you just sent, oh, I'm going to use it for the next gallery night because it takes a few minutes. I got some emails after like 5, and I was already driving here to the studio because I'm a good 20-25 minutes away from the studio where I record when I'm here with this background. And it takes a few minutes to get stuff into the machine because I put it through the middleman and do a lot of saving and all that. But Whitney, I will definitely use that for the next gallery night. I feel like we might have to do gallery nights every 3 weeks because there's so much content that got kicked up. At the Rugs, I wish this sounds spectacular. Fairy tale show. At the Rugs, make sure that if there's anything on the calendar that you're thinking of, that you share it here so we all can see it, since we're all in different places and we all want to do as many things as possible. So let me have one more sip. I just want to let you know also that this week I haven't stocked this yet. I started stocking this frame this week, and some of them have already sold. It's a beautiful beginner/travel frame that works on a Lazy Susan base like this and spins, but also tilts. So having this big lap frame where it can spin, rotate like a Lazy Susan, and then tilt in any direction. And then this can actually unscrew, so this lays flat and it becomes about this thick for travel. So I was very happy with that frame. One of my local buddies, her husband is making them, so I was really happy with that. And then I got this for myself, so I might start stocking this too. I saw her using this. These unscrew and turn as well, but she had all her noodles like under these bands hanging down, organized. And she said when she takes a trip, she literally unscrews this and takes one bar off with just the colors she needs for like an overnight stay or something. So she's got one of these things like a paddle unscrewed with just those colors. And I thought, that's smart. I do so much traveling myself. I don't have this one in the store yet, but I think I'll put it there. I'm gonna kind of cover it like a little Christmas tree with the noodles that I'm working on right now, and see how it goes. Eugenia, great to see you. Welcome. Happy Friday night. Happy Friday night. It doesn't feel like Friday for me because I just took a road trip yesterday and it was so good. I'm so sorry that I wasn't with you this week for a coffee time on Monday and Wednesday. I was sick. I was crazy. I was super depressed and crazy. And sometimes this is just the way it is for me sometimes. As you know, if you've been with me a while, I cannot pull it together to be able to run a show. It's like I need a straitjacket and a Victorian doctor to bring me to Bedlam, that kind of thing. But I've got it together now. It was a nice day yesterday that reset me, refreshed me, but sometimes life is just overwhelming when you are prone to being depressed. Even in this beautiful sunny weather, it's a lot sometimes. But I'm very happy to be with you tonight. I want to start by, I'm going to be looking at all the work that you've sent me. I want to show you what I'm working on too, because I always forget. I'm working on the Monet piece, and I want to show you that, but I haven't even finished transferring it yet. I went ahead and started making a bunch of water lilies in the border. If you've already seen this design of Monet I did with his palette standing in front of a Dutch house, based on one of his paintings, but it's a bit of a composite. I'll show you that this week on Coffee Time. But I also started this, and I'll tell you what, I was a big quilter for years and years, and now I'm a much bigger rugger than I am a quilter, but I still do like quilting, and I'm getting back into the idea of it. And I always like Baltimore quilts. This is the wrong side up, probably, right? This is a big take on a Baltimore album. Let me show you the squares quilt, which means all of these different squares are a different picture. I'm hooking with yarn. I'm not doing punch, but I could easily do punch. So you could see how for each square, this is when I get crazy. You'll find this out about me if you haven't yet. When I get crazy, I start working on smaller projects because my brain just can't do like larger stuff. I do things bite-sized. So I was working square to square, and I have a bunch of blocks here that I pulled from Baltimore album quilts that over the years I have liked. They're not all from the same quilt, so all different designs. These are the patterns that you're choosing from if you're taking the hooking with yarn class with me. But what I like about doing a project like this is for each square, depending on the mood I'm in or if I need a change, every time I approach a new square, it's a new color scheme, and it's like I can start again. And sorry, I'm fooling with my boobs here. Don't mean to do that. It's like I get to start again, do a new color palette. It's like a new mini project within the project. And for a crazy person especially, these kinds of projects are nice because you get sick of one color scheme. You say, forget that. I'm leaving that for the moment. I'm coming over here to light blue. Give me some sunflower yellow. Let's go. And turn that frown upside down with just moving to a different square. So I love working on projects like this. And I'll be working on that more and more, crazy and not crazy times, because it's just a lot of fun. It's super colorful, and I'm getting to use a lot of my leftover yarns. I'm doing all yarn, but also a lot of novelty yarn in this. So you'll see I'm using this for the class that I'm doing, the Hooking with Yarn class 2, which also comes with like 20 different little skeins or little cakes, 20 cakes of different colors, but then 20 little spools of fancy fibers like eyelash and the crazy mohairs and the crazy ones to hook with. So I'll be adding those in places too, but I'm probably going to add those last so they pull out a little bit more easily while I'm working, right? Oh, Lynn, good to see you. Okay, I missed something here. Whitney, does anyone know a worldwide store that sells genuine monk's cloth? I am from Michigan and wondering if Joann's or Michael's sell it. I know Amazon. Okay, so I know you're all answering this because this is such a pratfall possibility right here. We want to save Whitney from it. Joy, great to see you. I have your beautiful, I used one of Joy's rose rugs for her daughter, one of her daughters. I know you have one more to go because you've got 3. I have 2 of the 3 that you finished in tonight's show that Courtney sent, and I used one of them for the thumbnail tonight, a close-up. It was so good. That's Joy's work. Okay, so let me answer that question for Lynn before we get going with some traction. So, no, for Whitney, the box stores, and I think we're talking about like Joann's, Michael's, Hobby Lobby kind of thing, the monk's cloth they send, and this is one of the great punchlines in rug hooking, right? One of them is that there's two kinds of punch needle, a tiny, teeny little one, a little miniature Russian one, and then the standard one, like the Amy Oxford style punch. The other great joke is there's two kinds of monk's cloth, and one of them is suitable for rug hooking because it's 100% cotton. It's got some stretch. The holes open up a little. You can pull stuff through, and then they close right back and keep your loops in place. But the other one is the one that they sell at the box stores, and that is for needle work, like embroidery, cross stitch, needle arts. And it will definitely not work for rug hooking. There's nothing that no stretch. There's nothing that you would be able to do to make that work for rug hooking. So it'll be very frustrating and disappointing to buy that. Don't buy that. Make sure that when you're looking for monk's cloth, that you're looking for one that specifically says that it's for rug hooking, and they won't be at the box store, sadly. I do sell it in ribbon candy hooking. I sell a 100% cotton one. Many stores do. I'm not going to do name dropping when I talk about things that I don't like, but there are some and I'm not touting my own brand, but there are some stores that sell monk's cloth that's more toward the glossy side, like more like it's made up of DMC kind of floss, and I personally hate that, particularly for punch needle, because I feel like it doesn't have enough stretch. It's too thin and glossy, and my loops just don't want to stay. I just find it impossible to work with for hooking or punching. So it's always nice to find a monk's cloth that you like, because maybe you like the glossy one more than I do, right? It's good to find, when you find one that you like, to keep getting it from the same place, because monk's cloth differs from seller to seller to seller. So I'll be very blunt and honest and forthcoming and say, I get mine wholesale from Door. And the reason I get it from Door is because I get the one that's the Amy Oxford one. Because when you order something from me, I don't know whether you're punching or hooking. So I buy the one that's a hair more expensive, that is the one that Amy Oxford uses, promotes, endorses. I use that one for everything because it's fantastic for hooking and it's the best for punching. And she would know, right? She's like the guru of punch needle. So it's good for both. But you really have to find one that you like and stick with it. But it won't be one from a box store. That will be a huge wind up. And that makes me so mad that it's allowed to be called the same thing. I'd be perfectly happy if they changed the name of ours to like Junk's Cloth or anything, but just not the same exact name as another product that's also a textile, white with a red grid, that exists like readily in every store. It's super frustrating and very confusing. Oh, thank you so much. I love the sampler piece. Aileen, great to see you. You're happily punching on linen. So a lot of people do punch on linen. I've heard people punching on burlap, punching into dish towels, punching into anything woven that your loops will stay in. Same thing for hookers. If you're pulling up loops or you're punching down loops, if you're working in a backing that none of us ever talk about, but you found it or you have one of them and it works great, then that's perfect. That's perfect. If your loops stay in it and it's a pleasure to work with, then you have found a backing that works for you. And that is the end of the story. It's not even a conversation. If it's working and it ain't broke, you don't fix it. So you stick with that. You stick with anything that works. But some people do not like punching into linen, right? They feel it's too brittle, it's too coarse. Again, there's a million different kinds of linen. It's very hard to talk about whether linen is better than monk's cloth, for example, because we're not talking about apples and apples. There's so many different kinds of linen. There's so many different kinds of monk's cloth. But one thing that is immovable is that the big box stores don't sell the same monk's cloth that rug hookers hook or punch with. So that's one thing we know for sure. Oh, Joy, I love having that piece. I'm glad that I had it to put up there. Monk's cloth splits too much for you. It can. For punching, I teach punching too. I have seen like holes go right through the monk's cloth, but not often. And it's really someone who's really going to town when a hole happens. Ryan is the person we should be talking to about punching because he is like the punch master. And we have some of your work tonight too, Ryan. I love the Rug Crafters polyester backing. It is very nice. So there is a product that is harder to find nowadays because it's not readily stocked in rug hooking stores, and it is a kind of a rug warp, but it's a poly rug warp. So when we talk about, I have a little bit of it, but I don't stock it anymore because I can't get any more that I trust and that I think works well. I have poly rug warp. If you buy rug warp from me, it's cotton. The poly is just very hard to find now, but I agree with you, Ryan. The poly rug warp works great. It's a super tight weave. So I would not recommend it hooking with it. anything higher than a 4. Even that's pushing it. That would be a lot at a certain point. But the poly rug warp is super, super tight. And if you're a puncher, it is heaven. Also, just cotton rug warp for punchers is heaven because it's got a very tight weave. It's even tighter than monk's cloth. So when you're looking for rug warp, you can do cotton or poly if you're lucky enough to find it. And again, I only sell the cotton, but it works great for punching. So that will be a home run. I actually, all of the punch classes that I've done, like in the last 6 months, I've moved away from monk's cloth myself and toward cotton rug warp because I just see people who are beginners having more success with that backing. Depends from person to person. But try them all over time and see how it goes, you know. I should probably put out some kind of a sampler of backings, like maybe like a 14 by 14 piece of linen, rug warp, and monk's cloth. The three, you know, like the holy trinity of rug hooking backings. That sounded sacrilegious, I'm sorry. But that might be a handy thing to do, like a big enough snip of each one that people could try each one. And then you'd have like a normal sized thing that you could turn into a pillow or something. It wouldn't be a complete and utter waste, right? And big enough to put over your frame or into your hoop. Maybe I'll do that. That might make a lot of sense because it answers a lot of these questions that we all have, right? Sure, no problem. I think I will, April. I think that makes a lot of sense. Juliet says, I found a burlap remnant at Joann's last week, 1.5 yards for under $5. You were thrilled for Christmas gifts. Fantastic. You know, the Brits, I always say this, still use burlap routinely. Routinely. They're not looking for monk's cloth or looking for linen or Scottish burlap. They're just using burlap, Hessian, right? So, I mean, it works great and it has worked great for them. If you're putting it on the floor or using it as stair treads, I discourage against it. Because it's not a good water sort of backing, right? It will disintegrate, it will fall apart sooner rather than later. But if you're not putting it on the floor and it is economical, it is great to hook with. It's very easy to use. It's very inexpensive. It's super practical. It has that spirit of thrift behind it. You don't have to use expensive things. Just because you're buying something more expensive doesn't mean you're going to like it more or that it's going to perform any differently than something that is sort of a more budget price point. It doesn't work like that, right? If it worked like that, TJ Maxx wouldn't be in business, would they? April, it would be great to have one for hooking and one for punching. Absolutely. What is best? To have one for hooking, one for punching. Do you mean for a sampler in general, like a sampler of 3 backings, or did you mean the Baltimore sampler that I was working on? Let me know and I'll answer that question. Atha Kay, oh, it's Kay. Kay, I have one of your pieces in today too. I like to take sampler-sized pieces of different backings to demos so people can see and touch. That makes a lot of sense, and that is so good to do. The problem can persist that when somebody walks away and they say, I know I like monk's cloth the best, but then they buy monk's cloth from, like there's a place that I bought monk's cloth, and I'm not going to say, because you might like their monk's cloth, but I can't even use it. Like I can't use it at all. It's that glossy stuff and I can't stand it. I don't like the way it feels and it doesn't hold things well enough for me. It doesn't have enough stretch either. So it's such a tough thing. But once you find it, it's like that machine at the casino, right? It gives you the triple cherries a couple times and you think, I'm really onto something here. I'm going to keep getting it from this place because I know that it's working. It's one of those things, isn't it? The burlap from Michaels smells so bad, Ryan says. It'll depend also, right? Because Michaels does all different kinds of burlap. They do different grades of burlap too, and larger Michaels do different gauges of burlap, so different sort of tightnesses, different amount of holes per inch. And then they do all the decorative ones for the holidays. They bring out like purples, greens, and oranges and browns at different times of year. So they do different ones. Everybody's Michaels stocks different things as well. So there are their universal brands that are like the store brands, but they often have unique items that you can't find in another Michaels, or even if they pull them up on the, at the register, they're not somewhere else. It's a bit of a chase finding good supplies, isn't it? So yeah, we can keep touching base with this. And this reminds me, I like this conversation that's happening because it's extremely useful. Yes, the sampler packet would be wonderful. I think I'm going to do that. That makes perfect sense, and it's so easy for me to do because I have all these materials already and I have them all, wholesale, always ready, always there. Karen says, yeah, and there's the backings versus the yarn weights for backings. You just have to try it all. You do. Cat's Gallery, great to see you. Yeah, I mean, that's true as well. The two extremes are the only. I'm going to start content in a minute. The two extremes are the two things that we need to think about, because there are so many of us that either hook or punch with yarn, and then there are some of us who hook, mostly hook. Not many people punch a super wide primitive strip 8 or above. Some people could, right? They don't mind reloading every 5 seconds. It happens, and they love it. But mostly we're talking about people who hook with, on the extremes, very, very thin weight yarn, like sock yarn weight, very, very thin, not with a Russian punch, but with a punch needle using the Amy Oxford fine or a worsted weight punch needle. That's the kind of finest that you would do. And with that kind of weight, it would make the most sense to punch or hook into a backing with a very thin strip of wool, 3, 4, or a very light weight of yarn, lace, sock, mohair, to use a backing that's very tight, like rug warp or monk's cloth. If you're doing stuff that's more primitive and you like the wider cuts, you're probably better off in general with linen or burlap, because it's a much more open weave, it's much bigger holes, and you're pulling stuff through much more easily. You will be able to pull through large strips and other backings, but you will find that your hand, if you're a beginner, this is stuff that's worth hearing, you will find that your hand starts to complain and hurt. And for me, it's this part of my hand. It's not so much my wrist as like right here. And then I find myself trying to hold my hook in different ways or switch to different hooks to try to get that pain to move, because it becomes sort of a front of your brain feeling. It's hard to shake. It's like an ache that drives you nuts. So you can always send questions to me, or continue talking here about that spectrum from very thin materials to very wide materials. But in general, the tightest backing is rug warp. The second tightest is monk's cloth, then linen / burlap, right? Burlap's probably the loosest, depending on the quality of it. So keep that in mind when you're thinking about what you're going to be pulling through. And if you're thinking, well, I do like a Dion Fitzpatrick Canadian style pig's breakfast of materials. I have everything. Everything's out on the table. Yarn, wool, thick, thin, everything. You know, a lot of people use linen in that situation when they're pulling in a lot of stuff. And when they encounter something that's a very lightweight, like a thin yarn, they just double it up or quadruple it up and pull that through the same way. So you can make it work. It's all square peg, circle hole thinking. It's all thinking on your feet stuff and just seat of the pants stuff, because there can't be an answer for everything. And the best way to get into this craft is to get really confident, force yourself, and used to answering questions and figuring it out as you go, because this is a thrift craft. And this is the way people have always worked. If it doesn't work that way, I'm going to try it this way. If it's falling through the holes this way, I'm going to double it up. If it still doesn't feel right, I'm going to quadruple it up. But I'm going to pull it up in loops, and it's going to be part of this project. You have to just think like that, how to solve problems. Not, oh, I screwed up and I got the wrong backing, or I screwed up and I got the wrong yarn. You can make it work. You can make it work, and we will help you find the answers to your questions if you're struggling. It's also fun sometimes to struggle and complain. The pendulum swings, right? And then somebody says to you, listen, you got this. And then you feel better and you just get going, right? Oh, we all work the same way. Juliet says, how does the rug warp set, how does the rug warp set compare to linen hooking background? So rug warp is much, much, much tighter. So if you're looking at rug warp, you really can't see in between like little window panes. You can't see through the gauge of it where the holes are. It's that much tighter, even tighter than monk's cloth. So it looks completely different. And Whitney says, I found a rug hooking group in my area, thanks to the kind people on the website. I guess that's the Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club on Facebook. That's our group. Can't wait until next month. Are you going to meet? Oh, that's great. Tips on what kind of burlap is best for both projects. I like Scottish burlap, right? So that's like real specific. It has for me a sort of a little more waxy kind of a feel. It's a little bit stiffer, but it's not stiff. It's not hairy. That's the one that I like if I were going to use burlap. But I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it. Sometimes when I'm in a pinch or I'm getting a project ready for my daughter or her neighbor friend who comes over and hooks, I do go get burlap from Michael's, because I know that they're going to fool around and probably, damage something or lose interest 5 minutes in. And I do get burlap. I sew around the edges and make it official, but I give them a Sharpie and I let them go for it. And sometimes they finish projects. The neighbor girl, Charlotte, did a project the other day on burlap, and it was beautiful. She finished the whole thing, and she took it home, and she worked on it for a few more days, and she finished the whole thing, and her mom's going to turn that into a pillow. And that's on burlap. I said, don't get it wet. You know, it'll work. It's her first finished piece. But sometimes I do that too. So you have to do what makes sense. You have to do what's in your budget. You can't go outside your budget and be buying things that make you feel sick, because you're just going to get stomach cramps and end up hating the craft, right? You have to do stuff that makes sense for you, and particularly if you're a beginner. Don't set yourself up with all the most expensive stuff, because it doesn't guarantee success. It guarantees stomach cramps because you spent too much money. So, all right. So Ryan says, I'm good at, me too, Ryan. Oh God, I try not to do it on the show, but complaining is my life. It is my life. It's my therapy right now, since I ditched all my stupid doctors. You see what I did there? Aileen, your hook also matters. I did not like rug hooking warp until a hook with a thicker shank. I'm just going to remark on this because that's a great comment, and then I'm going to start commentary. This is how we get in trouble, isn't it? So that's a great point, too. If you're a beginner, you can have hooks. I don't think I have any handy at this moment, but sometimes I'm not talking about the head of the hook, which could be teeny, 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 like you think you're making lace, and that's probably no good if you have wider strips, anything wider than a 3, or thick yarn, because it's just not going to fall into the crook and be possible to pull it through, the crook part of the hook, right? The small hooks are for really, really thin cuts of wool and thin yarns. I always use like a large / primitive rug hook, which is much bigger crook. I sell them in the store. I sell 2 sizes, and I only have 1 listed. I have the medium size too. But I almost always use the same hook with a big crook, because for me, it pulls up thin stuff, all the thin stuff, but also all the thick stuff. I have the thinner ones. I have the Irish hooks, pencil hooks, all the fancy expensive hooks. I just don't reach for them ever. So in my mind, they're there and they look pretty in the container, but I never touch them and I never think of them. But some hooks have a much thicker shank. So when they come up from the hook end, instead of being like a little skinny hook until it meets the handle, it gets like a little bit thicker, right? A little bit wider. And the idea is when you punch the hook down, it opens up that window pane because the shank is so big. It pops it right open. You pull your wool strip or your yarn right through, and then of course the backing closes as soon as you pull the hook out. It closes back down. So in that regard, those work better. But I do have to say, a lot of people / most people prefer that thicker shaft. I don't. I'm one of the people that don't, because I just find it harder every time to push in. So again, there's so many variables, and it is wonderful if you live near a rug hooking store, which isn't very many people, because you're usually allowed to try different hooks because they are so expensive, particularly the nice ones. Sometimes I use ones with a thicker shaft, like my Hartman hook has a thicker shaft when I'm using linen or burlap, but I don't use those hooks when I'm using rug warp or monk's cloth, because I just find those thousands of times of putting it through begins to get to my hand. But that's just me, and maybe that's not you. Just something else to think about. So if while you're hooking and getting going and your tools are not working for you and you're thinking, I bought the wrong hook, I bought the wrong yarn, I bought the wrong backing, it might not be, it might be a combo, right? But it's not you. It's not, I'm not cut out for this. I'm screwing everything up. I wasn't meant to do this. I wasn't cut out for this. It's not that. It's that the tools you're using, some combination part of it is wrong. And you need to figure out how, and you ask questions and say, this is my backing, this is my hook, this is what my piece looks like, what's going wrong? And people who have already done that mistake can say, oh, well, you know what you're doing, your backing is just too tight. No wonder your hand hurts. You need to not use that kind of a hook, use a much different hook, a skinnier shaft, a thicker shaft. People are here to help you, though, so that's the good news. And you're on the computer, which means you have a good resource already. Shatha Simon, there is here in the UK something called linen scrim. Is that good for rug hooking? Now, scrim is like, I mean, I think of that as being like a homespun looking, like linen kind of material. Does that sound right to you? I used to live in England, but it's been a long time. I have a degree in costume from London, and I remember the word scrim, but I'm having trouble picturing that. I'm going to say, if you have that, if you can get a small quantity of it, and you can try it, if it's a woven, right, and you feel like you can try it, it's economical to get a small piece, grab that and try it, or describe it to me in the thread, and I'll try to picture what it looks like, because I'm not sure I'm thinking of the right fabric. There is a photo of linen scrim. Yeah, see if there is a photo of the scrim that you can send or put up in the Facebook group. my memory is it's like a woven that looks like old time homespun kind of a thing, like a loose loomed thing, and that could work great. That would work great. Okay, I have to say I'm a bit of a hook snob. Miller hooks all the way, but yes, different hands. Absolutely, absolutely. And you know what? That's so true, Kay, and it is such a pleasure to use tools that you love, right? And I can be a snob with different things too, right? I'm super persnickety with a lot of things. But it's the same thing as being interested in wine. Like, for example, this probably costs like $6 at the store. So I'm not that good with the wine. It all tastes great to me. It makes me feel happy on a Friday night. It's usually the one time a week that I have a drink of wine is when we're together. But I'm not knowledgeable, and it doesn't make any difference to me. But things that do, there are some things to me that make a big difference, like jam and jelly in the morning. If it's not the expensive one from the farmer's market, I'm not going to have Smuckers. I'm not going to waste the calories or the time on it. If it's jam, it better be from the farmer's market. It better be good. And there better not be soap in that shower that's like Irish Spring or Dove or something like that. That also has to be super fancy from Lush or one of these stores, because I think I use it once or twice a day, maybe twice in the summer because I'm such a sweaty pig. And it better be nice. And it's going to be expensive because those are the jam and the soap are the two things that I go for, right? But everybody has different things that they're very particular about. And when you know those are your things and you budget and you plan to have nice, for example, rug hooking or punching tools, then that's great. It is a pleasure and a civilized pleasure to enjoy the things that you like best. So once you get going and you're not a beginner and you have figured out which tools are your favorite, then you do kind of think in budget and look for other ones that are the next step up. That is the natural sort of evolution of how you feel about the trade. But it could be that, for me, I'm happy with the sort of Susan Bates type hook that I have, and that's the one I use 90% of the time. But it could be that one day, just like with wine, I go, you know what, I do like the expensive stuff. It just hasn't happened yet. It could. Mm. Yeah, Shaitha, I think that's the same stuff. I think it's going to be absolutely fine. I'm going to say, give it a shot. I can't imagine that the scrim is not going to work. I think it's going to be just fine. Just make sure it's not too open of a weave, right? And if it is too open of a weave, you can still use it. Just make sure that you're hooking, if you're hooking, cut like really wide strips of t-shirt material or cotton, or rip, right? Rip really wide strips. Don't do thin stuff because it might not hold if it's a very open weave. But I would say go ahead and get that. And if you're able to photograph it, either send me pictures of you working with it, the scrim, because there are other people from Britain. It's very late there now, but there are other people who log on. I don't know if Jane is on, but she's in Wales showing some of her stuff tonight. But there are other people who would want to know the answer to that. So let us know if you can. Get it and give it a try and see what kinds of materials work best in there, because we'd all be super interested. It is lost in translation, some of these words, so it would be super helpful to know that. All right. I know invading scrim refers to the amount of metal in the batting. Thus, you can't use it in microwaves. Oh, if you don't know, okay, what it refers to in England. Interesting. Lost in translation, right? Whitney says, are your hooks listed on the website? Yes, Whitney, they are. I have the Joan Moshimers, the blue primitive hooks listed, but I also have the medium-sized hooks. I just need to photograph them. You know what? I think I have them right here. I mean, what a nerd I am to have two hooks, and I do. I have them right in my purse. These are the two I have on the website, so let me show you. And then we got to do some gallery night. This is the primitive hook that's often called the coarse hook. It's got a blue top. This is a Joan Moshimer hook. So I stock this one. These are inexpensive hooks, but this works great. I use this type hook for like number 7s, number 8s, and a lot of hooking with bulky kinds of yarn, 3-ply yarn that I sell and dye. This one is more the medium-sized hook. This one is not listed. But for example, if you get it tonight before I have time to photograph these next to each other, I'm trying to get it in focus here. This is more medium if I put them side by side. So this is maybe, this one, I wouldn't use this one to do 7s, 8s, and above. I'd use this one to do like the 3s and the lightweight wools to maybe, to 5, 6, right? And then I would switch to this one. So they're quite significantly different in size. And the things that you want to worry about when you say, well, which one do I need? This one for thicker pieces and thick yarn, this one for thinner pieces and thin yarn. Because you want your, whatever you're hooking to be able to get into that crook to pull it through easily. but you don't want it a big thick piece to get, you can snag it in there, but then if this head is too small and sharp, it's going to just rip whatever you're trying to bring through into a loop. It's going to rip it right in half and shred as you go. Shred as you go is not a good way to start a project. I can't believe we're 40 minutes into the show. I am going to move on. I love all these questions, and this is a great time. Do I ship to the UK? Absolutely. Absolutely. And the order form, right, because it's a Shopify store, will calculate the shipping for you, right? It'll combine shipping and do the best possible shipping. And it always knows before you order what the shipping will be, because I know that that can be shocking. To the UK, it should be okay because the exchange works in your favor. So that would be okay. And I ship anything to the UK. So let's do gallery night. Let's do it. I'm going to keep an eye on the thread, and we might run a little bit over. Karen said open weave is great for Prati. Absolutely. Open weave is great for Prati. Don't forget, I'm teaching in November at Green Mountain a Prati class. And I think that there's still spaces available in there. It'd be great to see you there. That's in Vermont, Green Mountain School. That's a biggie. That's a nice one. There's other teachers teaching. You can sign up for multiple classes, multiple days. But mine is the Prati class. I think it's called the Very Prati New Year. And a Prati New Year. And it's like a beautiful flower vase with lots of silk dupioni and heavyweight wools, like suiting wools, and formal wear, as if like you're going to like a 1920s New Year's Eve party, and the women have these formal, fancy, silky dupioni dresses on, and the men have these like tweedy suits, using those materials together to make this beautiful sort of really colorful New Year's bouquet Prati project. That's coming up. I want to buy the primitive hook. You should. You should. It's there for you whenever you want it. So let's get started with this night. I will keep an eye on that, and you all can keep going with talking, because I know most of you know more than me anyway, so I'm going to leave you to answer those questions while we start looking at some of the most beautiful work that I have yet been sent, right? Absolutely crazy. So Juliet, I'm going to start with you because I accidentally didn't put this gorgeous image into the last gallery night show. Shame on me. I completely dropped the ball. Juliet did this great piece. This is the sort of prototype for it. This is a small sampler project that she did. And you wrote at the time, the small sampler was my practice rug to try out different spinning and hooking techniques as practice for the larger one. And I think you ended up putting this rug into your boat. It's much smaller, right? The rug is my own design and called Chesapeake Fantasy Sampler. It's mostly homespun wools with a little bit of commercial yarn, some velvet, and a bit of wool/bamboo roving, the shiny white parts. So let's look at some different images of it a little bit closer up. Right, that's a very good image, Juliet. Thank you. Good quality. You can see that shiny roving, right? All the different kinds of materials that went into this. It's hooked on monk's cloth. The rug is in the galley of our boat, and I'm working on the larger, so this was a month ago. I'm working on the larger Chesapeake Fantasy 2-foot by 5-foot rug with the foot that will go at the foot of the bed in the master stateroom. It too will be hooked with mostly homespun yarns, but I'll be using linen for backing. Before the sampler rug, so this is Juliet's second rug. Before the sampler rug, I hooked one 6 by 6 inch beginner kit from Dion Fitzpatrick, mostly to get an idea of how the commercial yarns and some cut wools hook up, and to see what the backing was like. So she was essentially conducting an experiment. A beautiful cat too, Robin, so true. A lightning round, wasn't it, Ryan? That was totally a lightning round. I love the texture too, and in this picture, Juliet is folding up, rolling up the side, about to whip stitch it, right? She's kind of basting around the edge so that you can get in there with a needle and a nice thicker yarn or wool strips and start whipping the sides. Interesting. So let's look at some more images. This is in the process of whipping the smaller sample piece, the kind of prototype piece, right, the one that we just looked at. And in the past month, incredibly, she began working on, these are some of the materials that were just mentioned. It is a real sort of potpourri collection of different materials. And, I mean, you got it all done in the end. I mean, it's just astonishing. This is the large piece. So this is Chesapeake Bay, Juliet's own design. First piece after that initial beginner piece. I feel like I lost a picture. Hang on. I'm sorry, I thought there was one more where you had all the yarns out. I guess I didn't get that one in there. I'm sorry. It showed even more yarns. But this is the finished piece. This is the larger piece that will go at the foot of the bed in the stateroom, and it is so beautiful. Juliet, you did such a noble job with this. This is an unbelievable design. Composition-wise, it is stellar. I mean, you must have some art training because you've got great diagonals, great top to bottoms. You've got perfect color balance. You've got the focus on that crab, which says Chesapeake Bay to anybody, right? The blue crab. You've got that strong diagonal going right through it. I mean, it is perfectly, perfectly blended and done. I loved the round edges on it too. It's very, very soft, and it's a good statement piece. It's going to go so well on a boat. Both pieces are beautiful. You did a wonderful job. And Ryan, you sent me your latest piece. This is absolutely beautiful. Is it it's a cleft, but with something else on it. I don't know what the whole symbol is called. This is a beautiful piece. This is the finished one. And I have to say, I've got some other images that I put in here as well. Let me back down. Now, you are a puncher, right? And you have a large collection of really hard to find, exciting vintage patterns. This is your latest one, but if you are in our group, which is Rug Cooking and Punch Needle Club on Facebook, and that's the ampersand, like and symbol, you do a lot of progress stuff as you go along. And Ryan, when you posted this picture, you wrote something like my backhand needs work, and I was thinking, what are you talking about? This is like so perfect that it's crazy. I think of you as the absolute master of precision. You fill a hole in my mind that nobody else fills. Let me show you some of Ryan's past work so you see what I mean. The epic scale of Ryan's treble clef and bass clef. Thank you, Aileen. Perfect. Ryan's work is epic in size, right? Because he's working these vintage patterns. I mean, most of your work, Ryan, am I right, is like 5 foot by 3 foot or 4 foot. I mean, you do stuff that's taller than I am, right? I mean, I'm like just over 5 feet. You do epic scale stuff. This is called The Harvest. I think this is a Van Gogh painting. Beautiful vintage work, but Ryan is always posting progress, which is super helpful. You also always post when you've made what you think is a mistake or you're struggling with a specific aspect of your project, and it is so helpful and so down to earth that you're willing to post status reports and videos to show people what you're doing and to show people where you're struggling, because we all struggle at different points, and it's just not everybody wants to admit, like, I'm struggling with this, I need more work with this. When I look at your work, I think you need no work with anything. Like, you are ready for the Smithsonian, the Met, the MoMA, anything. This piece is called Bar Harbor, and this is 5 foot by 7 foot. This is the epic scale of work that Ryan does. You can see where I was going up and going down. I see what you mean. So Ryan, you're referring to in the musical clef piece, like the unevenness of loops and stuff. And Ryan, do you block your work when you're done? Do you hit it with the iron to try to sort of mellow loop differences, or do you fool around with pulling at the height? Because these are big pieces to fool with, right? This is a piece called Damascus that you did, and let's see, does it say 3 foot by 5 foot? I mean, these are all epic pieces, and this is the back, right? Because he's a puncher. And Ryan, I forgot which tool do you use. You hate the Rumpelstiltskin. Use the Danella tool, or is it a different tool? I forget which one you use. But you love it. It's one of the vintage tools, I think. This is one that Ryan did called New England Autumn. This reminds me of the movie The Trouble with Harry, the Hitchcock movie. I just love this piece. Look at the color variation in the sky. Many of these vintage patterns look like paint by numbers, right? And the reason is that these came out, a lot of them in the 60s, 70s. Paint by number came out in 1950, right? So people were very familiar with the idea of filling in spaces. Not everybody can do this. Not everybody can commit to the scale of work. But when I think of a large scale piece, I just think of Ryan, always. This is another one of Ryan's pieces called The Aspens. Dang, that's right. Rug Crafter Speed Tufter. Okay, so Ryan uses a product called the Rug Crafter Speed Tufter. There are lots of choices, and if you are fooling around with the idea, it's not the kind of, Ryan, it's not the kind of plug-in thing, right? It's not one of these electric tufting guns that takes your arm out at the shoulder. It's one of these vintage hand tools. But if you're thinking about fooling around with this kind of a vintage tool, Ryan is absolutely the person to ask. It's not me. I would go straight to Ryan, get in touch with him, and ask him about different tools, because I think at this point he's used all of them and he's got an opinion on all of them. And you can see by the scale of work that he does that what he's using and what he's holding in his hand really has to work. These are huge pieces, and he works so fast. This is on a day, Ryan, that you posted. I hope you don't mind me using these. I've used these images for the book that'll be coming out later this year too. already on pre-sale. I'll talk about that later on Amazon. I was very surprised to see that since I didn't know that there was a title or a cover. Don't get me started. But this is one of these pictures that I used also in the book that was one of your great hauls at Michael's. And you wrote something like, on this day, there was a big sale at Michael's, I stocked up. And this is what stocking up looks like when you do, you're going crazy. I am going crazy. Well, you know I love your stuff. And people who aren't on Facebook, which is a lot of people, don't ever see it. And nobody else is doing this. And sorry, Ryan, I'm still going. This is a picture of the collection of his patterns, right? Like you sometimes see these and you see the size and most people go, oh, no way. But Ryan goes, oh, that's the Holy Grail one that I was looking for, right? And he adds it to the collection and gets going. So this is just so much fun. Kay is asking, Ryan, do you primarily work with off-the-shelf fibers? That's a great question. I'm going to leave that for him. This is a piece, this is the last piece, Ryan. I swear I'm not going to do too much with embarrassing you, but these are all epic pieces, and I know you love seeing them. Everybody loves seeing them. Desert Wagon. So this is not the working side. This is the right side, right? The finished side. But such different work, such different patterns. And in my mind, he is like the absolute king of the vintage pattern. And it is such a niche, isn't it? I mean, it's just, like, I'm just so charmed and romanced by the idea of just falling in love with this small, like, wrinkle in time, these patterns, mostly from the 70s, right? 60s, 70s, maybe early 80s, with these large scale, it's such a specific thing. And this is like really his niche. I just love it. I love to see someone find their thing and dig in, right? It's a super inspiration. So I'm going to move on. Wow, I got a lot of stuff tonight. We're probably not going to get there in one episode. Let's see. Holy mackerel. All right. Yeah, this is going to be a multi. But let me see. Here we go. Okay, so sorry, I'm just going back down in the list and finding where we were. Ryan, thank you so much. I know you just sent me the musical one, but I had to be a pig and take some more. I hope that's okay. I love your work. Guess who? My buddies, you are such beauties, both of you, Joy and Courtney, sisters. They get together, they have shenanigans, dye parties, fiber parties. Courtney, you are in, I think, Salisbury, North Carolina, and Joy, you're in Port Charlotte, Florida, I think. But you visited a couple times recently and done dye parties and done hooking stuff, and you put all kinds of fun stuff together. And I love seeing you. I love knowing that you're together. So I have a sister that I'm close to too, and it is such good shenanigans when you're with a sister. This is the rug I use for the thumbnail. This is one of Joy's rugs. So Joy has 3 daughters, and she's doing a rose rug for each daughter. And Joy, I think you have 2 of 3 finished. So this is the yellow one that I used as the thumbnail for tonight's episode. It is gorgeous. Oh, I just want to say Ryan answered, I use Bernat, Softy, Chunky, or Vintage Rug Crafters yarn if I have enough. And I'm sure that is always the thing, isn't it? So beautiful rose rug, and here comes rose rug number 2. I'm kind of dying to know, sisters are the best, Robin, it's true. Sisters can have a huge threshold for crazy talk and shenanigans, right? I know my sister, I can talk crazy to nobody like my sister and my mom, I have to say. My mom is like a sister too now that I'm getting older. But yeah, family is great for crazy talk. This is a beautiful color palette too. Joy, I'm dying to see what you do with your 3rd rug. And I wonder if you already have in mind which rug each daughter gets. I love your color balance in both of these rugs. I love the way that you've so softly done a little bit of outlining with black on all of the flowers. It really shows up on the light flowers with kind of vanilla and mauve undertones. Those are my favorites. I just think that color palette is so beautiful. The different greens that you've got going with like the warm olives and then the cooler kind of pistachio green. Really, really, really good balance. It's super nostalgic the way the flowers feel. This is such a great project, so pretty. So those were Joy's. This is a project that Courtney just finished. I love this vase. This is such a cool pattern. I love the way that the flowers almost look like hands, like little claws. I mean, it's just such a cool bouquet. And this really funky vase, right? This like bottom heavy vase with this cool geometric shape really offsets how round the bodies of the flowers are, right? The big curves on the flowers and this very geometric shape right in the middle, that big diamond. It's so powerful. color changing in the background, right? And the flower on top breaking the border. Those two bars of a similar color, but not the same. Super smart color placement, super smart choices of color. Really, really, really good. I absolutely love this piece. And then you sent some pictures that we really appreciate because it's so cool to get a window into what other people are doing. You sent a bunch of, let me see what you wrote. You wrote a nice message. You wrote, the 2 rose rugs are my sister's rugs. She's making one for each of her daughters. She has 1 more to go. They're absolutely stunning. The turquoise vase is mine. I just recently finished. The patterns are Dion Fitzpatrick designs. The other pics from the most recent Dye Fest when I recently visited Florida, did some over dyeing on wool cloth, sexy jersey, played with some different textures of yarn. I had to send the picture. Oh, okay. So wait a minute. We're coming up to that. So this is probably the sexy jersey. You know, this nice thin, like, they're very lightweight t-shirt stuff dyes so beautifully. You can use your dyes that you already have for wool, like the Cushing, the Dharma, the Pro Chem. You can use those dyes for dyeing jerseys and cottons too. They don't always come out as strong or as sort of potent, but they come out beautifully. You can see the colors are really exciting. And some beautiful over-dyed wools that you did. This is like such a batch, right? Such a batch, ready to go. Part of the Dye Fest, the most recent Dye Fest. And then some of the really beautiful yarns that you've got, different weights, different colors. I'm so glad that there's so many people right now that are experimenting with different kinds of yarn, not just the straight up hooking number 3s, which is great. And if you love that technical style of hooking, then that is great. You have found your love. But there are so many people who are experimenting with different weights of yarn for different effects, varied effects. And having this kind of variety, having all these different colors to choose from, is a great sort of wealth of yarn to go to. It's a great stash blaster, right? Having all of this stuff it looks like you made it and then you split it. This looks like shenanigans. Now, if this looks like shenanigans, what is the word for this? I absolutely love this picture. And this is Courtney. Well, it looks like Joy is bent over studiously, concentrating on drawing Courtney's pattern, and Courtney does this photobomb shot of Joy doing the pattern I mean, it's just such fun. But yeah, it looks like it looks like you two had such a good time. Joy, I'll get rid of it. I'll get rid of it. But it's so funny. So funny. I'm so glad that you sent those, Courtney. Thank you so much, Courtney and Joy. Beautiful work. I got another beautiful email from Ruth Decker. She's a good friend too. We write often. She's so, so, so helpful and so much going on that she relays to me that I cannot thank you enough, Ruth, for all of the correspondence and help that you give me. Ruth let me know this week that one of the ladies in the is it Putty Huck or Pucky Huddler Region 6 at the group, Peggy Bryan passed away. So I asked her if she could send some of the rugs that Peggy had done so that we could look at them together. It's always sad to know that what sounds like a beautiful human being, a fun person, a great hooker, a talented kind of person that you want to be at the meeting when you get there, the kind of person who will be sorely missed, that she has passed away. This is Peggy here, Peggy Bryan of Indianapolis. Let me show you another. I'm going to move on to one of her rugs, and we'll start looking at a series of them. Peggy Bryan of Indianapolis, Indiana, a rug hooker and quintessential greeter of the puddle. Is it putty or put? Let me turn. I'm just going to step away for 1 minute to turn my overhead light on. I am struggling with vision as usual. That looks like Pucky Huddler. Pucky Huddler, region number 6. The name of this email was What's on Your Label? She was the greeter, the quintessential greeter of the Pucky Huddler Region 6 Ather group, placed a simple label on each of her hooked rugs. Peggy gave dignity to people she met by simply knowing their name. And so it is. Let me come to you while I'm reading this, because this is such a beautiful message that she sent. It's such a beautiful tribute. Ruth wrote this. And so it is with labeling a rug for its provenance, not only for the history of the handcrafted rug, but the historical significance of its maker, pattern, and materials used holds in the history of the fiber arts. So great weight, great significance to these labels. And this is something that Peggy sounds like she did religiously, was a big advocate of. Peggy passed in her sleep on June 29th this year, And now she has given honor to her rugs by having placed her name label hooked by Peggy Bryan on each rug that she hooked. Rug hookers are unique in the way they label their rugs. And at our Pucky Huddler October 10th meeting, the lesson is making a rug label, including a demonstration by one of our ATHA members. The October meeting is also a market day for members to bring items to sell. That sounds amazingly fun. We miss our friend Peggy at ATHA meetings, greeting everybody by name and each new member by saying, "Hi, my name is Peggy and I'm a hooker." She sounds like she was so much fun. I'm so sorry, and my condolences go out to the Pucky Huddler. I'm sorry, that's a hard name. Region 6 ATHA group. I'm so sorry for your loss. But I want to spend some time looking at some of these beautiful rugs that Peggy made. So let's look together. So this is Sharon Smith's Sunflowers, right? Beautiful piece here. And this is Nola Hybreeder's Tropical Bird. Very different. I noticed that Peggy's rugs are so different subject-wise. She liked so many different things. It makes it so interesting to look at her work. Puck Huddlers. Thank you, Kay. Puck Huddlers. Jim's official account. Okay, so there might be, oh, that's Teddy. Teddy, behave yourself. That's my son, Teddy, talking about Garfield. So Teddy, take it easy with your comments, okay, honey? He's watching from home. So Nola Hybreeder, Tropical Bird, and this is an original design by, I'm watching the thread for Teddy, by Peggy. Beautiful winter scene, Christmas tree, right, with a little teddy bear. Now this piece is so interesting because it looks so small, but look at all of this intricate directional hooking. Like, isn't that a marvel? I even have it close up, right? Very, very strong directional hooking. It looks like probably like a number maybe 4. Really lovely, really even, but so much impact when you're this good at doing your directional hooking. Now, this is an unknown maker, but this is the front of a piece that does have a label, just unknown. So who knows, Ruth, maybe it's an original piece. Beautiful sheep, and here's the back of it. And it just says hooked by Peggy Bryan. So no further information there, but so lovely. This is a lovely piece too. This was a tomato that let me get it right, Kay, let me not do the same thing. Oh, I can't find the comment. Was it Puck? I'm not going to try to say it. I'm going to say Region 6. This is the group challenge for Region 6, the Year of the Tomato. And this is the rug that Peggy did for that event. This is another group challenge project that Peggy did. This is a Carla Gerard pattern for Sauter Village. So it was a different group challenge. And this was what Peggy came up with. Thanks, Suze. He likes to be acknowledged. He's such a little sweetie. I'm amazed he's tuning into Mama's Rug Cooking Show when he's got every channel going. This is a lovely piece, Pearl, May, and Laverne by Matt Moore. This is from Rebecca, I think Rebecca Elder Studio or Design, something like that. Really sweet, whimsical, comical, funny pattern with what look like sort of quilly twists around the edges. They're not quilly, they're hooked, but such a beautiful, cheerful, whimsical piece. And really in contrast to a piece like this, Oriental by, I think it's by Salma Donji, a Cushing pattern. Beautiful pattern, beautiful color placement, very different. I love the rooster too. And this is another one that was an unknown pattern, bit of a sampler piece too, very geometric, but then those really mod daisies, those pop art kind of daisies in there. What a lot of fun to use up colors and a little bit of patterned wool there. I can see some black and white that was probably some kind of a herringbone. Really exciting, really fun to be able to use up bits and pieces and make something this bright and cheerful, right? Love the whimsy. Absolutely. This piece is called Petite Persian by New Earth Designs. I mean, for one person, this is so much. She liked so many different styles, right? Petite Persian. This piece is called, this is a Green Mountain Design piece, Moxley. It says Moxley Seth. I wasn't sure if that was like a person's name or if that was the pattern name. Absolutely love this piece. Usually with these kinds of patterns, you find all of this leafiness and all of the color in the border. Well, this is reversed. It's a very simple, austere, sort of monotone border, like cream going into tan, but all of the action and whimsy is in the middle with all of these pops of different colors, lots of heathery, dusty rose and violet mauve colors, right? So different, so soft and pretty. I love that color palette. This is Chris Miller, Spruce Ridge Studio. A real primitive looking piece, right? Very, very sweet. Lots of fun to hook. Very traditional. It has that sort of Jacobean, cruel embroidery kind of feel to it, doesn't it? And this is a piece by Judy Kripp, Rustic Rugs. Lovely winter design, the reindeer. One different one in the, I guess it must be reindeer. I was looking for the red nose. I was being a bit literal, but super cute. Love a good repeat pattern. It always makes for a strong pattern. And this one by Judy Kripp is no exception. This is called 1 Yard of Teacups. So this is a Pearl/Jane McGowan pattern. And this is being displayed kind of in the bend or the fold of one of those standing displays. So it's not that it necessarily looks like this. It's a yard long, right? So it's a long, skinny piece, but it's kind of bent in the middle the way that it's displayed. That's not an optical illusion. What a great way to hook up 4 different teacups, right? Really fun. This is an unknown design, but I feel like we just saw this design like a week ago on Coffee Time. Leave it to me to not be able to put my finger on it. I didn't have any extra time today to do too much. I'm just watching the thread again. Always makes me nervous when Teddy logs on, but I knew it was him because it was super sort of illiterate. And he's being a bit of a fool, but it is fun and Friday. If you know what piece this is, let me know. I'd be really curious. I don't like loose ends, and I know that we just looked at it. I'm just kicking myself. But what a lovely piece. Very, very folky. I'm trying to think. I was thinking maybe it was Margaret at, what is it called, Mill River Rugs. That kind of design could be. It just could be one of her designs. This is a Lib Calloway Antique Runner by New Earth Designs. Another beautiful piece, a long skinny piece, very structured lamb tongues with little cherries on the corners. Really beautiful piece. Nice color palette too. Very primary driven color palette. Beautiful white background. Very clean looking piece. Really, really bright and colorful. Very cheerful. Another Sharon Smith flower bouquet piece, right? Beautiful sort of terracotta pot. Lots of different flowers coming up. Really lovely. These are all Peggy Bryan pieces. This is an unknown. I mean, I would guess that this was a Pearl McGowan. Of course, it could be like a Helen King or something like that. Chances are it's a Pearl McGowan. If somebody knows, let us know. But what a beautiful piece. I just love the mix of the really, not really pinks in this, are there? There's the antique mauves and then the kind of coral peaches and then the kind of persimmon pink to orange tones with this really cornflower blue around the edge. Really unexpected blueberry colors. Not your everyday blues, not the Wedgwoods, not that light either. Mixed with olive greens and browns makes a really, really stunning antique looking color palette. Very unusual. And this is the last piece of Peggy's that I have to show. It's such a beautiful body of work. Swan in Flowers by Jacqueline Designs. I think this is so, so well done. I have a close-up of this one too. It's such a simple design, but so well done. Let's look at it close up. And the tag, right? So what's on your label, right? It's got to be this kind of information for future generations, for anybody who picks it up in the future. We really need to be marking our work in this manner. Such a beautiful design, but I love this close-up because you can see the patterned wool that she's used in those scrolls and those beautiful ombre color fades to the left of the swan. So pretty. Robin. I was sneaking around. I was sneaking around today. You happened to write me while I was sneaking around. I felt suddenly like my antenna went up, like I got caught. I pulled this one off our Facebook group because I absolutely loved it. I saw it as soon as we had gallery night last time. So this is one of Robin's rugs. This is a Catherine Steffen design. That's Red Barn Rugs. Beautiful geometric. It's like the Delft blue kind of color palette. So pretty, kind of a quilter star in the center. It reminds me of one of these barn quilts or these hex type Pen Dutch designs. It is so beautiful. It is so eternal and classic. And I also included the close-up of it because it was that pretty. I loved how you said in the post that you recently finished this rug, from, again, Catherine Steffen of Rug Barn Designs. You said, I combined wool strips, wool yarn, sari silk, and recycled denim cord. Now, that is a great thing to do. You should be holding onto your denim. We're going to do some episodes about using denim and hooking with denim, because this is a great jackpot, and everybody has denim that they don't want, or in my case, don't fit in anymore. Robin says, it is my goal to start using more and more recycled materials, exclamation point. And I feel the same way. I like to get back to the basics and use more recycled stuff. It makes me feel good and connected to our ancestors, right? Our hooking sisters of yore. I grabbed this one too, Robin. You posted this on the 4th of July, and I didn't remark enough about it at the time. This is a Spruce Ridge Studios design. Beautiful 4th of July cat. Super cheerful, super whimsical. Looks like one of these old postcard designs. Could not be any more festive. It is so beautiful. I love the faded red, white, and blue. I love faded red, white, and blue. I should have put this up in the July 4th episode, but I think I had already done the episode by the time this posted. I was so happy to see this on the 4th of July. It was the perfect thing to see up on the page. I was so happy that you posted it. I love it. And, sorry, Robin, I went nuts. But Robin also posted this project that you did for your dad, and you said this was his Father's Day present. You said he's a rock hunter and collector, so I made him some coasters that resemble Lake Michigan agates. I put wool on the back and whipped the edges. Now, this to me, when I saw this, I just was like, you have to be kidding me. Sue's, that first one did remind me of a snowflake too, the quilty one, didn't it? This is so clever because each shape can be irregular, and you can picture these like slices of agate. You see them in stores, you know, natural history stores, museum stores. You see these beautiful transparent slices of agate, and they are each so different. You think, how can I use them? They're so they're just so mystical and magical looking, and you have really captured the look of these geodes with hooking, and hooking is so suited to doing this kind of thing. I like how each one is distinct and unique and irregular, making them completely unique, just like geodes. And I would think for a dad who's a rock collector and hunter that this would be the ultimate gift. This was so smart and thoughtful, just like you. And this is the back of them, beautifully done. You can see how Robin whipped them in like the same color. So they look really, really perfect. He must have been bowled over when he got this gift. This is just beautiful. I also took these, Robin. I hope that this is all right. You made a beautiful post from the Heart of Wisconsin Rug Hooking Guild on June 26th. And she said, the guild I belong to, called the Heart of Wisconsin Rug Hooking Guild, it's an ATHA chapter, was part of the Lost Arts Festival yesterday in Wapaka, Wisconsin. I hope I said that right. There were people demonstrating wood carving, weaving, basket making, blacksmithing, and more. And then she posted this, and they were obviously part of the group, and there's Robin with the long hair in the middle looking gorgeous. Carol, if you're on, I see you in the back. You're tall, peeking over, right, from the second row, working on projects here, showing people how it's done. Beautiful photo. I wish I was there, and I know Kaz would have been there if she wasn't traveling at that time too, because she's usually out there with you. And then you posted some pictures from inside the Hutchinson Museum, which I guess must be this beautiful house. It looks like a lovely historic house. And there were some beautiful hooked rugs in there. So crazy quilts, it looks like they're folded up, and then a crazy quilt cushion. But then on the floor, a woven rag rug, like loom woven. But in the center, what a beautiful hooked rug. You see that little oval rug on the floor with a crazy Browns hit or miss background. And here's another, I think this is a close-up of that one. Really large, chunky. This is not marble cake like the Hutchinsons did. This is big, chunky monkey pieces in the background of browns, right? Just keep running out of color and just reach for the next strip. No rhyme or reason, but it looks, when you do large scale hit or miss like this, goes so well with this kind of a design. These leaves, the green leaves, really kind of match the feel of that hit or miss. It's the same kind of scale. Makes a lot of sense. Think about doing hit or miss in your background. If you have a large background like this in a simple pattern, it can probably handle this kind of very heavy hit or miss, right? Very large scale. Here's a different rug with the same kind, very simple floral design with the same kind of large scale hit or miss background. Super smart. Simple black border. Those reminded me of the Garrett Blue Nose rugs, but not necessarily are them. This is a lovely welcome mat half moon style rug. Beautiful kind of rainbow inside, but it's not, is it? It's another hit or miss rug. You can see there's like a lumberjack kind of red and black watch type plaid on that outer ring. Around the border is the black and white. That was something real specific. Lots of color changing material in here. It's so pretty. I mean, the color palette is so odd and different. If you are looking for a rug with this color palette, kind of taups and dove grays, red and blacks, white and blacks, you would never find it. I just haven't seen a rug with this particular palette before. I think it's super becoming. I think this is really an attractive looking rug. Something to think about. And another one of these must all have been done by the same person because they did the same style of hit or miss in the background. Another one of these very symmetrical Art Nouveau patterns, same on both sides, and in the middle this total pig's breakfast of brown colors, hit or miss all the way. They've tried to done some kind of symmetry, like trying to balance their colors out somewhat, but with hit or miss you just don't, and you can't, and you probably shouldn't. These are just three beautiful rugs. I was so happy that you put those there. Thank you, Robin. And also, while you were writing to me, I was a further pig, and I took the email that you sent me today and added that to your Eurasian Owl by Fancy This. This is the piece that you were working on when you asked me if I was selling nylons, and I do sell nylons, 20 of those white stockings that you can dye for $10 on Ribbon Candy Hooking. So I just put a ton. You're not going to believe how big this bag is, Robin. I think it's more than you think, but it's on the way to you. Beautiful nylon, because you can see she's hooking with nylon and a lot of different materials here. And then I have one that you sent that was a bit more filled in on the chest. Lovely colors. I just love this piece. I love this piece. I'm reading the comments too. I just love this, Robin. This is a great, great piece. I had to put this close up in. You know, I'm taking a sip. Hold on one second. I'm getting a dry whistle here. It looks like there are a lot of materials in here, but you see those cross sections that look like tree trunks with the curls in the center. If you're hooking with maybe jersey there, maybe nylon, that is what nylon does too. When you leave your tails up, which not everybody does with nylon because they don't always like that, I love that. I love those cross sections that you see all wrapped up like that. That adds so much interest for me. I just want to dive in there and swim around like a swimming pool filled with those, like, you know, those balls that the kids jump into at those play places. I just want to dive right between those loops. It looks so lush in there. I love what you're doing. I love what you're doing. So I'm not sure if you're going to hook a background to this, but it is so beautiful. I don't know if you meant for me to share that, but I shared everything. I just loved what you sent. Donna, this is so beautiful. Your cone flowers, this is a miniature punch project. So this is not the traditional Oxford style standard punch. This is that small needle, right? There's the, why am I blanking out on the main one that Tattered Flag sells? I use Pretty Punch. That's why I'm blanking out. Ultra Punch, right? I have that one too. That's another great one. I'm just used to using my Pretty Punch, but all these miniature Russian punch needles do very small scale loops, much thinner fiber, right? For many of these kinds of tools, these mini punches, even DMC floss is too thick and you need to separate out your strands. Donna, this is a beautiful piece. She says, taken from a picture online that had no pattern or identification, and you added the bee, which I think is so perfect, right? We're all thinking about bees these days. Whose wings are done with the DMC's new iridescent thread. Oh, that is so pretty. I have seen that at Michael's. That is so pretty. But you can't see the effect in this photo. Oh, I can picture it, though. I can definitely picture it. I tried coloring the petals in ombre style. Well, you did. You know, for those of you that don't know the word ombre, it literally means not changing from one color to the next, like a tie-dye or something like that. Ombre is when you take one color, like pink or violet rose, which is what this looks like, red violet, and you go from darker to lighter, but it's the same color. It's just getting lighter. It's not changing color. So that's what ombre does. You did a nice ombre effect. The loops of the cones are cut to make them fuzzy. Oh, I remember we talked about this. So you pulled up the loops and then you trimmed them, right? Kind of like Waldoboro, not quite as sculptural, but you trimmed them like a clipped rug, if you're a rug hooker, like a clippy rug. And we had a conversation about this because I remember you saying, do you think it'll work? And I remember saying, as long as you punch it densely enough, it should be fine. and high enough because you just don't want them falling back through. So Donna, if you're watching, I wonder if you had any comments on that because it looks like it worked perfectly. Perfectly. It looks a little bit more shaggy than the rest of it, which is exactly what you want. It gave a very, like you say, fuzzy. It gave a very fuzzy and realistic effect. And she said she's waiting for more thread to finish it. The project was punched with an ultra punch small needle with 2 threads, and it measures 5 inches by 7.5 inches. Absolutely beautiful, Donna. You killed it. This is a beautiful piece. And I know the rest of your your fiber's gonna come soon. You're gonna finish that up, and it's gonna be ready to frame, right? Nancy Clunder sent this gorgeous piece. I just love this design. Hooked by Nancy Clunder, designed by Carol Feeney. For many years, Russia was part of what was called the Soviet Union. During that time, the government enlisted people to decorate the drab bus stops and subways with tile designs. This rug has some of the designs incorporated into the pattern. This is 29 by 49 wool paisley and printed jersey. I absolutely love this rug. I love this rug. I just keep coming back to it and looking at it. I would love to see more photos of it. I love that story too of the subway stops with the different tiles. You know, I lived in different parts of Europe for, Ryan, to you that is teeny. That's like microscope teeny, right? Telescope teeny. I lived in Europe for years in a few different places, and it is so interesting to see the way they decorate public places. And certainly, I haven't been to Russia. Certainly, now's not the time. But in London, of course, there's lots of different tile designs. In Paris on the metro, there's lots going on architecturally and with tiles downstairs. It's so interesting to see from country to country how thoughtful they were about doing decorations, public art, right? It was such a big movement in the early middle 20th century, such a push to decorate the world around people, public places, right? This is just such a beautiful example of this. I love the colors too. It could be such a kind of straightforward primitive piece, colored in more traditional colors, but with this turquoise deer, it almost looks like a piece of pottery or porcelain. It's so lovely. Yes, Juliet, the tan outlines really work on the dark background. They really do work. They really pop. I love that broken red, right? That broken red, like kind of like, it's not a zigzag or a rickrack. I don't know if there's a specific name for when you'd have that broad line that goes up, down, up, down, up, down. It is so simple. It's so clever. It almost looks like a postage stamp finish. I love the symmetry of the branches, right? Very, very deco feel. Pagula style flowers, very symmetrical leaves placed, right? Really composition strong, very equally spotted placement of dots on this beautiful deer and the birds facing in. The differentness of the trees is interesting. The one on the right has lots of slopey lines, and on the left, it's more like a telephone pole with very boxy shapes. So smart. And with these very strong geometric lines, you can put in these organic shapes like the leaves and the flowers and the animals. It's a very, very strong composition. It'd be very hard to beat. Sue says this is definitely a conversation going on with the fawn and the birds. Absolutely. You know, when I saw it, I thought of Snow White. I mean, how weird is that? But it is. There's a real fairy tale quality to it. And when I look at it, it does remind me of, Russian lacquer, right? Not the brown. It's usually the black and the red. The Russian lacquer painting has often this kind of symmetry and often this kind of fairy tale storytelling motif, repeat motifs happening. This also reminded me of, I know that this is Russian art, but this also reminded me of Peruvian tapestries and Peruvian weaving, because you do see the deer often as a very common motif in Peru. So I pulled up some designs. Again, this is a Russian piece. Nancy, this is beautiful. It just sent me on a bit of a rabbit hole chase, right, down the rabbit hole, because it got me thinking about Peruvian tapestries, and I found this example on a website called Fields of Wheat. It's just called Peruvian tapestry. It's obviously not deer, it's llamas, but I thought, for me, it has the feeling that the body of the animal has that same kind of shape, right, that very frozen shape, but whimsical. This is a bit more Dr. Dolittle, with these filigree trees in the background, like the primitive, like wire trees or Christmas trees, the folky ones, really different. And then this example I found on Amazon. This is just dining decor, Peruvian placemat. But you see what I mean, just the static quality of the animals, it just reminded me of a Peruvian tapestry as well. But now, when I get a free moment, whenever that might be, I want to look at Russian lacquer work again, because that has shades of this kind of dialogue too between animals, right? Very, very sweet, very well done. Nancy, that's beautiful. I don't think Kaz is with us tonight because there is a big wedding in her family this weekend. Her son is getting married. She's been working on this piece for a while. This is one that I sell. It's based on an antique pattern that I sell at Ribbon Candy Hooking. This is an English, I think this one's called English Garden. She says, I have been very busy. This is Kaz's Kazuko Stone. I've been very busy the last 2 weeks with the wedding prep. I bet she has, right? Because she was just traveling through Switzerland and Italy too, so she just got home and she's like in high gear getting ready for the wedding. The wedding will be at the bride's parents' farm outside. There are so many things to prepare. I have to make cookies and I don't bake, so I've been practicing decorating cookies also. She told me she'd been watching a lot of YouTube videos and stuff and getting how-tos on how to get these cookies done. She says, I hope I'll be able to finish the English garden rug. I'm so glad that I saw your punching the outlines with yarn video, because she did it. She punched the outlines of this with that video where I just flip it over. I punch all of the outlines and then I flip it over because the punching is so fast, and then I just fill in with hooking. It really speeds things up. So she used that video. I hope if that sounds attractive to you that you watch that video too, because it can be a very speedy, helpful technique. She says, I ran out of brown, so I used some grays, and I think that's the right thing to do. If you run out of your browns, go to your grays. They're all neutrals, right? Go to your antique blacks, go to your dark blues. They're all neutrals. She says, I probably won't be with you for gallery night. She's, of course, busy the day before the wedding. I was just listening to last Friday's cocktail night episode, so she wanted to share her progress. Um, she said she really liked punching the outlines. I really had to be careful when I moved the rug on the frame, though, because, of course, when you punch the outlines, your loops are underneath, and then you're working on a frame with combs, and then you have that conversation. We won't get into that now. We often have that conversation about, are my frames safe on those vicious teeth, rug hooking frame teeth? Some people say, yes, no problem, be careful. Some people say, I put saran wrap down to cover them. Some people say it never works, don't do it. So let's have that conversation another day. We talk about that often, but for me, I have to admit it's always a thing. I'm always worried about it. Sometimes it pulls out no matter how careful I am, but I still think it's faster to do this technique, especially when you're in a hurry like Kaz is. So she's been working on this, Robin. Her cookies look so good. Very professional. I wish I would have posted a picture of her cookies. They're crazy. They're like shaped, and they have the initials of the bride and groom. And there's like script, and they look like little like wedding envelopes. They're amazing. This is a little bit further along the same English garden piece that she's doing. When she was planning this piece, she was in touch because she said, I want them to be able to stand on the rug to take the vows. Typical traditional purpose for a wedding rug, right? So that's when we got talking about what one would work, and she really liked this design. So this is where she's got, I'm not sure if she's going to have time to finish it, but at least it will be a wonderful wedding gift. And she added the initials in this one, A and M, so bride and groom. Kaz, and I know she's not watching live, but I just want to say so many people in this group are such great personal friends, and I really appreciate that. Um, I'm so grateful and thankful for this group. Kaz is always sending gifts. I don't know if Teddy's still out. I don't want to get him going. But she always sends beautiful gifts to the kids. These are my kids, Teddy and Jocelyn. That was Teddy who was on acting like a boob earlier. This was like last year. She sent stuff late last summer. They were a little bit younger there. She just sent a box again last week full of like Japanese treats because they love Japanese sweets and snacks and stuff. And we belong to one of those Amazon clubs where they send different Japanese foods to us every month so we can try different snacks. But she sends beautiful stuff to the kids, and I really appreciate it. After we did the Alice Butler episode last year, and we talked about the Alice Butler rug that was called, it was the Boys' Day Kite. I forget what it was called. It might have just been called Japan Kite or something like that, or Fish Kite. I think it was called Fish Kite. But Kaz put in the box this little plush keychain thing from Japan. Teddy has it on his backpack still. And he brought it all year to school. He'll probably still have it there next year. And she sent him a bunch of these Japanese kites, the fish kites, that they use to celebrate Boys' Day in Japan. Absolutely beautiful. And I wanted to include, for this special weekend for Kaz, I wanted to include pictures from this post that she did a while back. The top picture is of her son's band. This was years ago. He's dressed as a penguin playing the drums. That was the costume he wore when he played the drums. And when he played the drums, the dog down below, who's called Ringo, would be falling asleep right next to all of this noise routinely. And I guess it was a great laugh in the family that the dog could sleep through this kind of noise, but that was Ringo. And one of Kaz's great past rugs is this rug called Ringo's Dream that she designed herself. And that is her son, who's getting married this weekend, with their dog, who's I think gone now. But Ringo sitting there at right at the foot of the drum set, fast asleep, right? So congratulations, Kaz. Congratulations to your son, your family. I hope it's a beautiful weekend. This next piece is from Jane from Wales. I can't imagine she's on. That would be so naughty because it's 6 hours ahead there. I wanted to show you a project that she's working on. And you know, Jane tuned in for our first two chats, like Tuesday chats, where we like Zoom in person, and Kirsten is hosting them. And I log on when I can. I've logged on for the first two. Jane logs on from Wales, and she showed us this project she's working on. Now, you know that in other countries, it goes without being said, it's often a thing getting supplies, right? Because rug hooking in Europe is not such a thing. Rag rugs, yes. Hooking, punching can be tricky, right? Prati, not so much. Prati's right there. Hooking, punching, you sometimes have to find materials, build your own frame, all that stuff. It always amazes me, particularly with Brits, how resourceful you are, right, as a people. So Jane's got a situation where she's got limited supplies in Wales, and she's making her own pattern, right? You can see she's sorting things out, cutting up templates, and her next step is to do this, right? She transfers her pattern with all of these shapes. She's got them color coded. You can see on the left she's starting to fill in colors. She's punching here. So she's figured this out herself. This is the spirit of the craft. She's got this homemade frame going. And she wrote this email. And again, she's usually on Tuesdays, and it's great to talk to her because she does a lot of problem solving, very practical problem solving, to be able to do the craft that we do so readily when we've got the materials right here in the U.S. She says, it's Jane from Wales. I wanted to say how much I enjoy coffee time and cocktail time. I'm going to skip that part. I love it, and I love you, Jane. I don't want to toot my own horn. After watching the gallery show on Friday, it inspired me to send you an update on my progress so far. I must admit, I've been in awe of everything people are doing. Mine is nowhere near as intricate as you or others make. Well, I beg to differ with that. She says, I particularly love the amazing sculpting of the colors on one of the ladies' rugs. I'm going to come to you for a minute because if you are in the Rug Hooking and Punch Needle Club, there is a person in our club, a lady Sylvia, I think, who does very punch, Waldoboro punch, very dense, very pom-pom thick, high yarn work that she then clips, right, like Waldoboro, but it's punched. It is extraordinary. She clips it with just regular scissors. She does extraordinary amount of work. She's prolific, like Ryan is prolific. Very modern, very cool work, and that is always, she's always in our group. She's always posting. You can search Sylvia. I'm sure that's her name. I'm doing really magical pieces. Let me come back down to Jane. Wow, we are making progress. I can't believe it. It is such a good show, and I don't want to cut anything. So let me just bring you here to show you. She's gotten much further because when she showed it to us 2 Tuesdays ago, it was pretty much done. But she goes on to say, I'm going to try doing a small sample once I've completed the projects I need to do. So she's going to try that technique of punching and sculpting. She says, the runner that she's working on here is 72 inches by 24, and it's on monk's cloth. I've taken the pattern from some wallpaper I used to decoupage the front of the sideboard on my landing. The pattern is based on just 2 triangles. I made them bigger, then I put them onto lining paper the size of a runner. I copied it onto a sewing pattern fabric and then transferred it onto monk's cloth, making sure that it was square. Your edges must be square and along the grain, or you are going to be so frustrated and crying yourself to sleep. It must be squared, right? That's really important tip, Jane. Thank you. The lap frame is made from an unused bed table and some wood from an old bed in my friend's shed. We took the legs off the bed table, put some hinges on the front, and put one of the legs on the back. Let me go back to the last slide so you can see what she means. We took the legs off the bed table, put some hinges on the front, and put one of the legs on the back so it could fold down when not in use. I have an idea of something that I would
that would make a good rug hooking frame too. I'm looking for a cheap secondhand swivel vanity mirror. Oh, interesting. If we take the mirror out and with tweaks and additions, I think it will be made into a fab rug hooking frame. Jane, based on what you've done so far, I know that it will. I have 1,000% faith in you. Make sure you show us the prototype for the original. Get it patented and copyrighted first. The one and only Jane from Wales vanity mirror rug hooking frame. I would love to see it, and I will buy it and have it shipped. It sounds like a gem. Patent pending. Lisa, you sent a beautiful project to Lisa Briggs. This is what I'm currently working on. I don't know the pattern name or the creator. I bought it off eBay and it came with a lot of dark primitive and flanneled pattern cut strips, but only 5 color choices. Not enough for me and not my color choices, but I'm giving it a go. I'm also using upcycled wool in similar patterns given to me by one of the Magdalenas. That's her local guild, the Magdalenas, as in Magdalena, Briner, Eby, to give the rug more color. I'm trying to use up what I have upcycled. I think this is just beautiful. It's so good to find these unfinished. Thank you, Aileen. Sydney Sylvie. Thank you. That is it. Sydney, Sydney, Sylvie, Silvi. Aileen, thank you so much. Who does that carving of the rugs. You are so right. Ryan says frame building is an art unto itself. And you should know because you make these giant sized frames and you have been kind enough to show a video of your frame and you working on your frame. And that is super helpful for people. There's not many people that do that scale of work, but it is an inspiration and it's super helpful for those brave people that are about to. And Sue says to Jane, I bet you excelled in geometry. Absolutely. Those triangles would have done me in. Squared or not, that would have done me in. And it is so beautiful. Jane, you have to send a picture of what you've done so far because you look like you're pretty much done at this point. Lisa, this is such a beautiful primitive piece, and it is a grand idea to get these pieces, unfinished pieces from Facebook Marketplace or eBay, Etsy. Sometimes rug hooking pages like Green Mountain have orphaned projects, right, that are partly done. If you can pick them up, if you can see yourself finishing them off. Now, Lisa, I wonder if this piece had those diagonals built into the design, because if they didn't, this is so smart. This is so smart anyway. But take a look at this design. If this was just the background and you don't have any more material for this, it makes a lot of sense to bracket off the corners like an old photograph, right? And because then you know that you've got a very small amount of background left yet to hook, and you can fool with different shades of cream and tan and make it work. Kind of mottled hit or miss marble cake style background. But bracketing off those 4 corners and being able to do those in a consistent color will make it look like the whole thing is intentional. These are smart decisions to make when you take on an orphaned project, right? This is just brilliant. This is a beautiful project. Lisa, I had to take a close-up of it as well because I love big, fat loops. I love them. This is my favorite site, big, fat loops. I love being able to see this much of each of the materials, the solids, the prints. I just love it. Dive right in. I just love it. Lisa, this is a beautiful piece. Thank you so much for sending it. Karen, you sent some beautiful pieces too. This one is called Holiday Haul. This is such a nice festive piece, 2022. You said that this was a piece, this is a Whimsy Rugs design called Holiday Haul, hooked for your son. And you put a Chevrolet design in the bottom in honor of your son, who now works for GM. So you see that in the bottom, in the border, that little car body shape. So cool, so custom, personalized. I love those big snowflakes coming down. It is super festive. I don't know if anybody else is watching like the Hallmark Christmas in July right now, but you know that I am. I mean, I'm that corny. I'm just loving it. I'm just gonna have a quick sip. I love to see a winter pattern at this time of the year. It cools me right off. Karen, this is one of your grandmother's rugs. This is so beautiful. Her name was Edith Honer of Ipswich, Massachusetts. We were in Ipswich yesterday at the Cogswell Grant House. That was Ipswich. This is one of your grandmother's rugs. This is just so beautiful. I'm just seeing if you wrote anything about it.
I can't remember if I don't think that you did. This is probably a Pro McGowan design. When we see things from this era, we say this all the time. I don't recognize many patterns off the top of my head, I have to admit. But Pearl McGowan was certainly the most prolific designer from this period, followed by Heirloom and Mrs. Harry David. A few other people. Some of the Garrett Bluenose patterns looked a little bit like this, so it is hard to be able to pinpoint it. But by far, most of the patterns that look like this are Pearl McGowan patterns that were sold by McGowan certified teachers, and they circulated a lot. So Charlotte Stratton did a lot of designs like this too. So it's worth researching if you're interested. But just beautiful color palette, very, very typical for the period. I just love these soft rugs. These are just, they're so beautiful. They're so feminine. There's such a moment in time. They are this eternal antique beauty, right? This eternal quality. It's like a living garden. It's a forever living garden. And hooked by somebody and you know who that person was. It's your grandmother. Makes it so extra special and so lovely. This is another one of grandmother's rugs, Edith Honer's rugs, and very different. This is one of these Pearl McGowan. I can't remember what this one is called. I know we looked at it in our Designing Like Pearl McGowan class. This is one of the patterns that Pearl would refer to as like an ethnic pattern, right? Because she did a lot with Eastern European designs, Asian designs, South American designs, and sometimes inspirations from many different continents were used in one rug, and they kind of were lumped into categories of ethnic designs or sacred designs. This certainly has a look of sort of a prayer rug, but it does have around the border a more English look, more like an illumination, and then it goes into kind of a little lamb's tongue kind of stained glass look, and then very minute miniature stained glass outer border. This is a 1, 2, well, it's more than. It's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 4/5, 6 rug border, right? If you're counting the solid stripes. There's a lot of borders in this rug, and all of them complement the central design. It is so beautiful. Space Invaders. Absolutely, Ryan. Absolute. That's a great idea. That is too funny. That is a great idea. Oh, Ryan. I, you're going to get me going. And this always happens at this time of night. I mean, it would be so funny to do one of these very sort of traditional, heavily bordered, sacred/ethnic rugs, and in the center, your eye expects to see this kind of Persian-style paisley or a Jacobean swirl, but instead you have something that looks like the monsters coming down for Space Invaders. That would be fantastic. I'm sure it would be a copyright issue, but it would be fantastic. There's so many bootleg versions of those characters from the original Space Invaders and Centipedes and all those 1980s arcade games. We were in another arcade today, so I should know, right? We just went to an amusement park on Wednesday, and then today we're in an arcade again. But there are a lot of bootleg versions of those that I'm sure would fly. That is so funny. Why not? Man, my kids would love that. Um, so let's see. Wait a minute. Let me come back to where we were. Space Invaders. Yeah. All right. And then Karen sent this beauty. Um, Beautiful original design of yours, a squirrel rug. And at this point, you sent an email, you sent the image, and you said, I think I'm done. And oh, God, this is so pretty. What a beautiful combination. Nice harvest theme, nice autumn theme, falling leaves, pine cones, right? Lots of nice seasonal touches, beautiful character sitting on the pumpkin, beautiful central motif. Love the green, sort of sagey, mossy background. Love the aubergine kind of border. Really kicks off the orange and the green. Such a beautiful piece. Um, but are we ever done, right? Because then Karen went on, questioned, am I done? And it turned out you were not quite done. You ended up doing a three braid border on this piece. So it is even better now. We thought it was as perfect as it could be, and yet it's even more perfect now. This is just glorious. What a beautiful rug, and perfect colors for the border. I love how you use that aubergine/cranberry color immediately, because it really gives that strong kind of picture frame, like painting frame, to it. And then your eye can travel out more slowly and hit the other colors that are already part of the palette. This is just a gorgeous piece. And, I don't feel like braiding is for everything, but braiding works great for this. And we did talk about how braiding can be just the most wonderful thing there is. And it reminded me of the fact that Val Gavin, right? And she's someone else who I included in this book that's coming out, the Rag Rugs book, the Fox Chapel book, and I'll tell you more about that. Maybe not now because I was surprised to see the cover and the title of the book recently because I hadn't seen that yet. I'm very thankful when viewers are sending me images of my book that I haven't seen yet. But anyway, that's coming soon, and I covered Val Gavin in the book because she is the person who I most closely identify with the idea of doing the combined hooking braiding technique. She is huge on hooking with braided borders. She's huge on braiding and she's huge on hooking, but she often does both in tandem. And she has videos on YouTube walking through her studio showing you all of the rugs she does that are hooked rugs with heavy braided borders that are just to die for. That's Val Gavin, Gavin. She's got a great Facebook page. She's got a great internet presence too. Videos, definitely worth checking out. Lots and lots of fun. So let me see. Let me come back here. I know I was being naughty. I have to be careful. Oh, Karen, you sent this picture of your cat too. So we know that the rug is a hit. We got the final stamp of approval. We won't describe what kind of a stamp, but you know when a cat puts its butt on a rug that you are golden, right? It has now been sort of christened, right? So beautiful cat, comfy rug. Is that a Maine Coon cat? That is such a beauty. What a sweetie. Oh, and you sent this beauty as well. Lynn, that squirrel and pumpkin are so pretty, huh? Linda loves the border as well. Um, cannot leave this out, the fortune teller. So Karen, this is still my favorite rug of yours. You did a lot of different techniques with this. You did the Prati flower right on the fortune teller's headdress, right, her headscarf, and you did the gazing ball. What's it called? The fortune teller's ball, the crystal ball, in Waldoboro, right? So you hooked it very, very high relief, very dense, very plush and full, and then you shaped it. You carved it into a three-dimensional sphere, like a ball, like a dome, and it gives a great effect. You did this piece after we had that episode on Coffee Time talking about using carnival art, which is in many cases folk art, right? We did a whole episode. I think it might have even spilled into two. Turned out to be, so weirdly, because I went out on a limb for this one, first time for everything, right? We did an episode that it was like I had gone to an amusement park or something, and I got just this wave of inspiration looking at the carnival art, which is truly folk art, different form of folk art. We're hookers. These people were carvers, carousel makers, banner painters, right? And it got me looking at some of my books on folk art that included carnival life. And I did a lot of carnival related stuff in that episode. And Karen immediately started working on this like lifetime achievement piece in my mind of the fortune teller. I absolutely love it. It was just perfect. The kind of tarot cards in the four corners. I just love this piece. It's so magical, mystical, atmospheric, right? It's so celebratory and festive. It reminds me of summer and carnivals and this moment in time. I absolutely love it. And I mentioned that this week, the kids were just driving me crazy. This was like a bit of a hard week for me, moods and on crazy scale. It was a bad one. But I realized I only had one day this week that was free with the kids being out for summer, and they were hounding me to go to Rye Playland, which is my favorite amusement park. And it has a lot of beautiful folk art there. And we went to Rye Playland. Guess what I saw in Rye Playland? It was a wild day. It was about 140 degrees at least in the shade. It was absolute grown-up misery. But the kids had a ball, and it was a ball. If you're friends with me on Facebook, you saw them having a grand old time. I found Zoltar, and I could not resist. He gave me a fortune. I took a video of it that's on my regular Facebook page. If you're a friend or if you want to friend me, I put all these funny videos up from this day because I was so inspired going back there, seeing carnival art like this. I like, Karen, I like yours a lot more than Zoltar. This reminds me of Tom Hanks and the movie Big and all that. But I just thought, such fun, so much fun. He did give a fortune in this crazy, spooky voice, I don't know how the kids are afraid to go into the bathroom when the light is off, but they're not scared. They're not scared of Zoltar. I mean, his head turns. It's like The Exorcist when you put $1 in. But it was a lot of fun. I took a picture of him. We went on the carousel. They just reopened their carousel after years. This is our babysitter and our friend Ava in the middle. She's 18 now. She's been babysitting the kids since they were 13. I know that sounds irresponsible, but she's been more mature than me since she was 13. And the kids have loved her. So now she's 18, and I took her out to New York City the other day, and she came to the park with us and rode all the scary rides because Mama just don't do that stuff. I just don't. Mama stands in the shade, trying to be civilized and wait. And I take lots of pictures. That's my function. Conjunction function. That's me in the shade. But Ava is great, and Teddy's on the left, and Joss is on the right. And this carnival appeared after many years of being closed. They restored it, all these beautiful painted horses with gemstones, inset. I noticed that on the roof of this is a detour, but I noticed that on the roof of the carousel, it looked like it was like a rose pink. And I was like looking up there at this architecture going, how did they do this? It's just glowing up there. It's like the beautiful Wedgwood color blue frame, but then there's this rose color coming down, and I noticed like candy up in this little cupola on top. They've got these candy colored stained glass windows. Like, look at the color that it's making a white roof, right? It just goes to show you put one color next to another color, it's going to change the way everything looks. It casts this beautiful candy glow on everything. It was just beautiful. And then we were walking around wasting money on stuff like this, and I thought, I am also so inspired by this. This looks like Andy Warhol to me. These carnival booths with these weird knockoff, toys, super, super cheapies, squished into these cubbies, and these weird octopuses, and then these troll characters underneath. Look at these troll characters. It looks like, the trolls, like the original trolls from like the 70s, 80s. So wacky, so weird, so much food for thought, right? It's just, I just was so, everywhere I looked, there was color. And I was so excited. The top of the carousel, they had inset all these new paintings. I don't know who the artist was. I should have asked to see if there was more info on the carousel, because somebody, I want to do like a piece that incorporates some of these beautiful paintings. This is fine art. The bumper, this isn't the bumper cars, is it? This is like the teacup, the what are these called? The whip. This is the ride called the whip. They just whip you around until your neck snaps, right? But Jossie did this 100 times. She's still attached. But they just did beautiful paintings of the wooden roller coaster there that's called the Dragon. It's just as great as it can be, isn't it? Just so much inspiration at the carnival. And when you go to a place like this, I noticed at Rye, I got a ticket not as a spectator, which was like $9.99, just to go in and take pictures of all of these inspirations to be able to compose a composition later. If you're super inspired, the architecture, the color, the atmosphere, the nostalgia, all of these things, it's so cheap. Maybe not when it's 104 degrees, but on a day for $9.99 to just be able to go in, not ride the rides, and just walk around and take pictures, that is well worth the money. I paid the money because there are a couple rides I do like the carousel, and it was worth it. But it's just an idea. If you like the idea of pulling some inspiration out of a carnival atmosphere at an old amusement park near you, see if there's a spectator pass, because they usually cost like nothing. And you get the bracelet, and you don't want to ride the rides anyway, so you just spend the whole day taking photographs of things that might inspire you later to work on your next project. So let's see. I have a couple more. Kay, you sent a beautiful piece, a Cushing piece, like an older pattern called Falling Leaves. This is I just love this. I love everything about this piece. This is an antique pattern from Cushing called Falling Leaves. I did this in a number 6 cut and particularly enjoyed the unusual shape and geometry of the outer border. The photo on their website shows more orange and green tones with a similar inner background color, but mine is more of a rust and cadet blue variant. Those are absolutely perfect complementary colors, opposite each other on the color wheel. Rust and cadet blue, that's brilliant. I really had fun, particularly doing the outer border, and I stayed close to the original design, but the color planning is mainly from me, with a bit of help from my camp teacher, Nancy Miller Quigley. Nancy was the owner of the Miller Hook business before it was sold. And I do think of myself as a bit of a Miller Hook snob, so you said, right? I love using those hooks. Well, I can understand why, and it's great to have that kind of access to that kind of iconic person in the rug hooking world. The color is just amazing here. Of course it's you. This is just so beautiful. I love this irregular shape. I love the bump outs on the corner of this, of the inner pattern. You know, both motifs here, because the border can truly be regarded as one of the motifs. This is a hit or miss border that is done. It reminds me of that English licorice candy. You know the kinds I mean, with the dark centers. It is such a kaleidoscope swirl of colors. It's very controlled color palette. They are very antique colors. They are mostly neutrals with this tomato red and this blue that you've introduced. And that is smart. You keep going to complementary colors, right? Mixed in with neutrals. That's the answer. That is the answer. Love is the answer. You got it. So that outer border is one of the two motifs to me. I can't even regard that as a background. The inner border is just beautiful. You did not do a one color kind of vanilla background of white. There's a lot of color changing happening. I'm looking at it. Some of the strips are looking like they're glowing, right? They're glowing like those cone flowers with the iridescent DMC. They really are frosty, glow, vanilla, white, parchment, champagne, all of these variants of light white. Really beautiful, spilled milk colors. So much going on. My favorite part is the leaves, right? All different directions, all different colors, cool colors, warm colors, orange tones, oranges going into browns, lemony greens and citrons, key lime next to darker grays, stormy grays, pinks, rose pinks going toward cranberries and eggplants. It is just like a feast for the eyes. There's a very different color palette on the inner, where the leaves are, as opposed to the outer, with the outer being just neutrals, the tomato red and a lot of cool colors, and the inner being that very, very light neutral in contrast, and a lot of mostly warm leafy colors, pinks, greens, and browns, right? Very, very different. It just goes to show that in one piece, you can do two completely different color palettes, both busy, in side by side, and you can make it work. What makes it work with this pattern is the sameness, right? When we look at it, we see a collection of leaves. When you look at the border is a huge part of this composition, but your eye reads it immediately as a border, as a hit or miss border at that. We speak the language, right? We already speak the language. This is a hit or miss border. You have a comfort level with that. You know what it is. It's not going to challenge you, right? It's a bunch of fallen leaves, and there is this beautiful lush border. And now that you know that, your eye can rest and travel from one leaf to the next, from the stem to the tip to the petal, and then out to the border and travel all around. And it's very restful to look at, despite the fact that there's a lot going on with color. There is nothing that's competing with anything else. It's very easy to read. It's in perfect, perfect harmony. If I saw this piece like in a store, I'm sorry, Mom, I would take out my credit card. I wouldn't even look at the price because I just love it so much. I love it so much. It's the kind of a piece that I would have to have somewhere like over the mantle or somewhere where I could see it from bed, because I know that when I was just laying there, spaced out, crazed, relaxed, whatever, thinking deep thoughts, I would want to look at this and just let my eyes just travel and wander. It'd be the kind of thing I would want to look at thousands of times because there's that much to see in it. I just love this piece, Kay. It's just beautiful. You did a really smashing job. I love it. And our last piece of the night, can you believe it? We did it in time. Even though we had that long intro, it's a good thing that we did that, huh? We got to a lot of stuff tonight. Let me bring you, sorry, I know it's a dark screen. I'm just making sure I'm going to the right place. Oops, something touching my hand. Yep, that was Carnival. So here we are, Wendy. You sent something beautiful. Oh, she says, hi, Deanna. I hope you're feeling better. You shine so brightly. Don't burn out. Thank you so much, Wendy. That is so nice to say. I was exactly doing that. I was burning out, completely bottoming out. Thank you so much. I am a lot better. Kay says, I sure had fun with doing that rug. I don't think I was consciously aware of doing the things that you're pointing out, but I am certainly learning from what you're saying. Well, that means that you're just a natural, Kay. It just means that you're a natural. Some people have this built-in color sense. Some people have all different kinds of things built in, right? I mean, it's like some people have to work at it, right? And other people have it built in, like a musical ability, a great singing voice, a great color sense, a great personality, right? Other people don't have the same things hardwired, and they work on those things. If they're things that they identify as, I'm not great at that, right? Kay, you are great at color planning, but say you were a different person and you weren't great at color planning, and you said to yourself, I feel like I always struggle with color, and when I work on something and I put my colors together, I don't feel like they pop. I don't feel like I like them well enough. Well, then you know that you're not that great at color. And good thing there's a lot of information written about books on color and color theory and looking at color wheels, and there's all kinds of resources that you can go to for free on the internet and learn more and improve in that area. But we're all good at different things, and nobody's good at everything. But Kay, you definitely have an like innate talent for color. There's no question about that. If you did that without a lot of thought, trying to get those colors just right, then you should never question your instinct for color, because it's certainly hardwired. Wendy Simon, this beautiful piece. This is a series that we're going to look at. So she's got this photograph of the wood pile with the smaller pieces on top. What a great idea for a composition, right? And she's drawn it out. So this is the first picture, and I'm going to bring you to the next. It's going to bring us a little bit. Thank you, Mom. Yes, please give a thumbs up for the channel. I will. I'm going to tell you about both in just a second. Let's look at a close-up of this. It's so good. So you can see she's drawn those logs, and on top, those small shapes, those are the small pieces of wood that are stacked on top. Let's look again. Isn't that clever? Look at that photo source that she's got at the bottom, right? Isn't that clever? So she's either free-handed or she's blown it up at Staples kind of a thing, or on her printer. She's got it exactly the size she's wanted. She's got all these shapes built in. She's cued herself to darks and lights, right? Absolutely beautiful. And you know what this composition made me think of with the log pile? Wendy, I'm not done with you yet, but it just rabbit's hole. It made me think of yesterday because, Mom, I hope you don't mind me doing this. We were walking around Cogswell Grant, this is my pretty mom, at this beautiful 18th century house, 1770s, I think, maybe a little bit earlier. Beautiful farmhouse owned by the Littles. They were big folk art collectors, and we looked at tons and tons of rugs in there. She was walking by here, and what's right behind her in that little alcove? Take a look, close up. Woodpile. Doesn't that remind you of Wendy's thing? I mean, as soon as I opened up Wendy's picture, I went, oh my gosh, that reminds me of yesterday. And I thought, oh, look at that Tetris action that's going on, right, Ryan? It looks great. I mean, it's a great repeat pattern. When I saw this picture, I thought, whoa, look at the pattern that's happening inside the alcove where the wood is being stored. Look at it in contrast to that horizontal, right, of the wood shingling, right, of the paneling on the house, right, the horizontals. All those horizontals, I'm going to leave out the vents. Those aren't very picturesque. But then that inset of the patterned wool, and then over on the left, right, that road leading out to nowhere, just the vast wilderness, the great unknown. Isn't that a remarkable composition? You wouldn't have to put all the little ugly stuff, the little weird stuff in there. There's not a lot of it. But, I mean, I just thought, what texture? Eileen says log piles are Canadian Tetris. I bet. I bet. Whoa, my mom says warm, fun, happy, fun memory. The woodpile was crazy wonderful. Well, it was. And it goes to show, she starts working on it here, the kind of patterning that you can get just looking around you, right? Looking at things like wood piles. You see something like that, you take a photo, you transfer it onto backing the way that Wendy did. You start working on it. Look at these great colors. And then look a little bit ahead, those smaller pieces of wood. You've got some rosy colors, some rusty colors coming in. It doesn't have to be literal, because if it is literal, you've got a very limited color palette, right? You can be very realistic if that's the kind of hooker that you are. You enjoy that kind of photorealism, that you will enjoy hooking this in a realistic way. I like hooking it this way. I really love what Wendy's doing. I'm seeing purples and periwinkles, all different colors, right? It's going to look more like an abstract this way. You got to work for it, but it is going to come out to be a beautiful, very organic, pattern-driven piece. So this is her working on that piece that we were just looking at. This is another piece that she sent that you can see as similar inspiration. It looks like kind of a rock path, or just beautiful kind of placement, mosaic placement of rocks, right? I think your dad would like this one too, Robin. Just beautiful composition of soft rocks, rosy kind of pebbles, sea glass colors, darker colors. This reminds me of the other day when I took the kids swimming, and Jess kept we were swimming in a lake and it had a lot of rocks on the ground. I get a bit squeamish the older I get. She kept putting her hand underwater where you couldn't see and pulling up handfuls of rock, and I thought, I hope she doesn't touch anything weird, you know. I don't know how I got to be like that because I used to be scared of nothing. But she kept pulling up these handfuls of wet rocks, and they were these exact colors, impossible orange and pink colors, along with really blue grays. And I thought, wow, this is really beautiful. She's just putting her hand under and pulling up this like beautiful palette of colors. And of course, when the rocks are wet, they're completely different colors than when they dry. They're like chameleons. When they dry, they're super boring, not very pretty, but when they're wet, they show these crazy bright colors that seem impossible, but that's Mother Nature painting, right? So this is another great composition that Wendy did, this rug here. So you can see that she's kind of onto a theme. She does have a great idea, Robin. Um, Kay says, "Oh my God, someone knows how to pack a woodshed." Absolutely, right? I'm not Canadian, right? I don't have that built in, that's for sure. I make such a mess when I try to do that kind of stacking. That was really masterful stacking. A lot of wood in a small place. Absolutely. So that was the last rug that I have to show you. Nancy sent a great rug, but I think she forgot to attach, Nancy Thomas, she forgot to, Thompson, forgot to attach the attachment. So that's going to be our first rug of our next gallery night. You know, I might run gallery night every 3 weeks instead of 2 weeks because I feel like with more of us, we are more than 10,200 people in our group. So we are the largest rug group in the country by far. Um, and you know, so many people contributing now. I feel like we could do an episode easily every 3 weeks. So let's shoot for that because it's so worthwhile looking at each other's work, talking about each other's work, seeing what's going on. I will continue to pull examples off of. It's been a long time. Our Facebook group because I know not everybody is into Facebook. And I understand that. So I want people who tune in here and are not Facebook people to know what's going on in the Facebook book group and see these beautiful pieces that people are doing that we're not seeing in other places. So I want to start shooting to do this every 3rd week. And what I'm really saying is send me more pieces. So whatever you're working on, whatever you're about to work on, even if it's a sketch, you don't have to send something on backing or something that you've started or finished. Just send me something that you're working on, an idea, a germ of an idea. That's exciting too, because talking about the process from the germ to the finished product that's all whipped and done, there's so many things in between, and those are all things that are helpful for us to discuss because we all hit different points in our project where we're just done, right? We're just parked. We're just speed bump, right? And it's good to talk about the different steps, the different problems that one might encounter because it helps other people who might be at that very juncture to get over that crazy speed bump and just get on with it, right? You never know if what you're saying or showing is a thing that someone else needs to get over that speed bump. That reminds me, today in the Facebook group, somebody posted a post that said something like, I finished my piece and I am just parked. I am stalled. I do not want to do the binding in the border. It was like a really kind of depressed tone to it. And it was like, I just can't, you know, like the Nike thing, just do it. I just can't. And people were very sympathetic and immediately said, you know, I know that feeling. Doing the finishing part is not for everybody. Some people enjoy it, other people hate it and they never do it. And then they hate themselves because they haven't done it. We shouldn't do that. So I immediately started a post on our page, right? We'll have to figure out how to share this in a larger platform so that not Facebook people can join in. But I immediately started a post that was about in search of. Are you in search of work and you'd like to be paid for doing something like finishing the edges of someone else's project, finishing the hooking, backing it, um, um, tagging it, repairing it, recoloring, all those things that a lot of people don't like to do? Are you someone who would like to do that and would like to make some extra money? Or are you someone who has some extra money and would much rather hand off the project to someone else and get on to the thing that you like more, which is maybe the beginning or the hooking or the designing? Maybe you want to hire somebody to hook a whole thing for you. All different sort of scenarios could play out. But I want to create a situation where people can, I don't want to be the matchmaker because I'll drop the ball big time. But I want that platform to be there, and I have it pinned to the featured posts in our group so that people can say, I'm a person that can do and I could use a little extra money, or I'm a person, I'd rather have somebody do it for me. I just can't. So those people should be able to find each other more easily. And I'm trying to create a platform where, Ryan says, not done, throw it in the pile. Me too. I think I finished like 2 pieces out of like 200 pieces. I think I'll be getting somebody else to finish all my pieces because it's just not a good use of time for me right now. And I don't enjoy it. And at a certain time, there's no reason, just life in general, right? Overarching philosophy, there's no reason why, if there is something that you are absolutely dreading and do not want to do, and you don't have to do, there's no reason why you should do it. If you can outsource it to someone else, uh, um, try to do that. Don't crucify yourself by trying to do something that you don't enjoy doing. You're going to hate every minute of it, right? You're going to hate the project afterward. Just don't. Good. Well, inspirational. It was inspirational because I got so many beautiful pieces this week. Without those pieces, we would have no show. So, really fun episode and really fun week. I already had a show set out for you on Monday. That's why I felt extra guilty because I completely folded on Monday mentally. But I had a great show set out, and I'm going to bring that show to you on this coming Monday. I had gone through eBay and I was looking at some of the popular rugs. And I've done shows like this before. Looked at some rugs on some other sites that were similar, new rugs, old rugs. What are people doing here? Some rugs that were mislabeled, and then it brought some new language and terms that we have not yet used yet on Coffee Time, like Raya rugs. Um, I pulled some things up that were mislabeled that I thought this is good food for thought for us and good conversation to start, get you going on some new rabbit holes, but looking at some different forms of rugs because it's very difficult sometimes if you're not a rug person to tell the difference between a latched rug and a Raya rug, right? In terms of quality and value, they are night and day. So Monday's episode will be about looking at some of the rugs that are currently for sale on the internet, and little sort of glitches, tag words, things, phrases that you can use to find them more easily. Words that people use or don't use that you should be looking for if you're a collector, looking at values of things that are available right now on the different internet, shopping sites. So we'll start doing that on Monday. And again, I'm going to run Coffee Time this week on Monday, Tuesday, and Friday because on Wednesday I'm going to be at the McGowan Guild Fairy Tale Show at the Public, Publick, house in Sturbridge, Massachusetts. And it is a one-day show. It's something like, I shouldn't say. I know it goes till 7 p.m. I feel like it's 12 or 1, but check. I posted the thing on our Facebook group. So if you're going, let me know because I will be there too. And I would love to see you there. I'll certainly take lots of photos and document that show so I can share it with you later. Coffee time, Monday, Tuesday, Friday, cocktail time. Start sending me your rugs for our next gallery night, which will be in 3 weeks. Oh, Ryan, do you have a Raya rug to do? Have to learn how it works. It's all knotting. I'll show you on Monday. It's it's a time consuming, but it's a different, totally different backing, a totally different technique. So we'll talk about Raya rugs on Monday. That's one of our big subjects coming up. Thank you to everybody who submitted rugs. If you didn't submit rugs and you're working up the nerve, I'm here to tell you that yours is good enough. Send it to ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com. We will enjoy it on the next gallery night, which will be 3 weeks from tonight. Have a great weekend, everybody. Send me all of your thoughts, your rugs, your projects, your questions. And I will be back with you on Monday for